Hey now, it's Mike Gilbert, host of the Mike and JD Show, right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Join JD by God Oliva and myself every Thursday night live on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube channel at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we stay up all night discussing all the hottest stories in professional wrestling. You can also check us out right here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting feed, or you can subscribe to the Mike and JD Show feed. Now, enjoy the show.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Thank you so much for supporting WWE and NXT and me. You're so sweet.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
I'm not throwing in the towel. I'll do this till I die. The only ones that are going to get me are the ones that outlive me. Then they can come tap dance on my grave. That's fine.
Rich Preach.
Just because a camera stays steady for 3 minutes does not mean it's like art and cinema. Watch a movie, watch a TV show, watch something.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you, Rich Craig?
I'm doing well, Well, I got some playoff baseball on the TV, feeling good. You know, nice bite in the air. It's the fall. You know, I can definitely tell the fall is here.
Feeling good, bite in the air.
a little chilliness. You know, my favorite season is here. It's hoodie and shorts season, which is my favorite of all the seasons. I love summer, but God, there's something nice about wearing shorts and then throwing a hoodie on top.
Yeah, hoodie and short season is a classic white guy look.
So good.
No doubt
It's
about
so
it.
good, yes. And I am very white, incredibly white.
And I got to tell you, it's funny. It's so funny you bring that up because, you know how they say like when women hang out together, like their period cycles start to match up.
Yeah.
You know, have you heard that bit before?
Of course. Oh no, it's not. I can assure you, I don't think it's a bit either. I've known many people.
Nah, I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical.
But that's neither here nor there.
I don't
but,
know. The nurse the nurse says that when she works days, it doesn't happen, but back when she worked nights, it did happen. Now that
they all started
tackle that
matching
one.
up.
They all started matching up when they worked on nights. So I don't know.
All right. Well, where I was going with that was it's like, you know, we've done a lot of audio the last 3 days.
Yes,
but
we have.
we're starting to think a lot because I was taking a leak this morning and my bathroom window faces the street, so I could see my neighborhood when I'm taking a leak, right? And
can people
I glance out.
How much in can people see? How much in? Is it mostly an out? Or
Well,
I
got a big tree. There's a big tree.
Okay.
They'd really have to be trying hard. And if they were, then it's obviously on them for being weird.
Got it.
You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Okay.
So,
yeah, you're not weird for like sitting there taking a piss, looking at the street, and if they see you, it's more on them than it is on you.
It's gonna be more on them. Plus, they're
Got it.
only gonna see me from like the titties up.
Yeah. Right.
The windows.
Right.
So anyway, I'm looking out the window, and in Texas, there was a lady walking a dog, talking to a guy across the street. The lady was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and the guy was wearing a parka with the hood on. That's the weather we have in Texas right now.
What's it, 87? What's it, 85, 87 there? What are we talking? Or are the nights getting to the 70s, the cool 70s?
Yeah. Well, actually, with this new phone, I don't know how to see the weather, but it's currently 64.
Oh, wow.
So
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's currently 64. I would say during that little scene this morning, it was probably like, pushing 70, like 67, 68.
Right. Parker guy.
So you have that. We're in that weird time where that requires some of these people to bundle up like they're in the Arctic, and other people like me are still rocking the shorts. And
transplants.
t-shirts,
There's a 90% chance that guy is from somewhere else, right? That guy's not a born and bred Texan, I would assume.
Yeah, it was the other way around. The guy was wearing the parka and the lady was, but yes,
that's what I mean. Yes.
Ladies,
right. Sorry, it was the lady with the parka. Right. So the guy who's doing the shorts and t-shirts in 68-degree weather.
Rich, you're all mixed up here.
Oh God.
This isn't the important part of the story, but it was It was the lady walking the dog.
The lady
who
with
was
the
in
dog.
shorts
Okay.
and the t-shirts.
Got it.
She was in the shorts and the t-shirts. The guy was wearing the parka with the hood on, with his one hand in his pocket, the other hand smoking a ciggy, and he had
was he doing the rub the hands together and blow right? Move that'd be good.
And he had like pajama pants on. I think the garage in the house across the street was open. I think he was a house guest. And he probably isn't allowed to smoke in the house. I think that was that's what I put together. So I think, because I didn't recognize the guy and the garage was open. So I think he was outside having his morning smoke, because whoever he's staying with is probably like, look, you're not stinking up my furniture.
Sure.
And then
right.
he was kicking some game and struck up a a with the lady walking the dog.
Oh, hey, good for him. Good for him. Is
he's
it a
out
good
of
match?
town,
Is it a good
right?
match? Is it a good match, would you say?
Well, I couldn't tell. He had a hood, and I couldn't really like decipher what he looked like.
Yeah.
He was like,
the lady though, are we talking nice looking woman here? Joe's not going to answer. Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to be polite. Not my type. How about that?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
He not only had the hoodie up on the parka, but he had like the drawstrings pulled,
oh,
so you could only see like I don't know, 8 square inches of his face, like enough for the cigarette to make it, to reach his lips. But I just looked out my window and I shook my head. I'm like, it's that time of year.
It's that time. Yeah. You
never know what they're gonna wear.
A couple of years ago, I went to South Carolina roughly around this time to visit the nurse's grandma. And we went to the beach, and we were just hanging out at the beach, just kind of walking the dogs or whatever, just hanging out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get in that water. I bet it's pretty good. And I put my foot in, and it was fine. It was okay. The water was okay. It was relatively warm. It's probably, 78 to 80 degrees outside. I'd consider that okay or whatever. So what happens is I jump into the water, and as I'm in the water, I notice there are people walking by, and they're exactly like you said. Because it's what did I say? It was like, low 70s, mid 70s to low 70s. And they're in hoodie, drawstring pulled, pants, gloves as they're walking their dogs on the beach in like oh man, we better bundle up. We're going to the beach and it's 77 degrees out. Where I was like, ooh, I'm going to jump on in this water and have a good time, because where I came from, it was 55 degrees and it's 80 degrees here. This is pretty cool. So it is very interesting. But yeah, then the whole trip.
Rich was like, man, I'm glad I packed that Speedo.
right. Good thing I got the Speedo I could bust out right here. Good thing I shaved everything so I could look good in this thing. But no, it's like, and then the rest of the trip, it's exactly like you described. Like, we are out and about, and I'm wearing, shorts and a polo shirt, and everybody else has got their big leather jackets on, their parkas, their gloves, the hats. Like, I'm seeing stocking caps, and it's like 72 degrees out. At night, it's like 66 degrees, and they got the stocking caps on, and it's like, man, different world. Where I'm like, at 50 degrees, perfect, shorts and hoodie weather, let's go. Windows open, bedroom windows open, the whole house, every window's open in the house. I'm like, let that fresh air in. It's 53 degrees in. Come on, let's go.
Shorts and hoodie, classic white guy. Now, do you go all the way with the boat shoes with the shorts?
No, I don't like boat shoes. Not a boat shoes guy.
I'm
not a boat shoes guy. I'm either barefoot or I'll just run and get socks. If I have to go outside, I will wear socks. I'm not even a big like sandal or flip-flop guy either. I kind of would rather just have the shoe.
Barefoot, fucking Jungle Jim Steele over
well,
there.
Barefoot in the house. I don't go outside barefoot. Jungle Jim Steele.
What are you doing?
Jungle Jim Steele. Of all the barefoot wrestlers that have ever existed.
What? Came to mind. What do you want from me?
Jumpin' Jim Steele.
Jungle Jim Steele.
WCW Saturday Night Jobber from 1992 or whatever. He wasn't a jobber though, right? I guess he wouldn't be a jobber.
All Japan Carnival participant, sir.
Was he really? Holy shit. Oh my God.
Well, he's Wolf Hawkfield, right?
Yeah, right. He is Wolf Hawk. Yeah.
Isn't that Jungle Jim Steele?
That's him.
Same guy.
That is him. Yeah. EC Dubber. He was in EC Dub for a little bit, right? Shot or two.
A lot of guys got a shot or two at that time.
I don't recall if he actually did or not. I want to say he did, but Jungle Jim Steele. And you don't even use his like Jungle Jim Steele.
I understand. What's so funny? That's a good reference.
It's just your brain. Our brains are so broken by professional wrestling. It's stupid. Like, think of everything that you don't know.
Who would have been your?
It doesn't matter. Maybe a Kevin Von Erich or no.
Kevin Von Erich is the go-to, right?
But that's too chalk. That's too chalk. You got to go with someone better than that. Maybe a Samoan, one of the Samoans,
Yeah, how about pre-human suplex machine Tasmaniac?
Yeah, Tasmaniac would have worked. Kamala, the Ugandan giant, would have worked.
Kamala's a good one. I think Kevin Von Erich's the go-to.
That's chalk, though. I like that you didn't go with that. I'm glad you also didn't go with Matt Riddle, too. I prefer not to be considered. But
Matt Riddle, barefoot.
ML Dub superstar. But no, my
Speedball Mike Bailey.
Oh, I forget he's barefoot. The problem is because he has the fucking kick pads. The worst look in all of wrestling is.
Well, like Hikaru Sato. Same thing.
Did you catch that one? What was it? Maybe a month or so ago, where he wrestled an entire match wearing a sweater, but it was like a sweater that just went around his neck, but his back was exposed. Did you? I wanted to tell you, and I forgot to screenshot or tell you.
Who did this?
Hikaru Sato. Hikaru Sato. Yeah, I forget when this carnival was, or this All Japan show was. Maybe a month or so ago. It was absolutely, utterly ridiculous, and I meant to bring it up on the show, and I didn't. And now it's the worst time to bring it up because it's not a visual medium, so there's no way for me to show you. But just trust me, he wore it was like a patterned sweater, but it only went around his neck and the front of his chest, but then the back was open. He had to tie it. It was the most inefficient sweater I've ever seen in my life, and he just wrestled an entire match in it. It was just like, what is happening?
Was it a comedy gimmick match? Because I know in the past he has wrestled in the schoolgirl outfit. You know what I'm talking about? Where he puts the hair, he cosplays as a schoolgirl. I don't know if that was what he was doing.
It was something different. I'm told it is a Virgin Killer sweater. Do you know? Are you aware of the Virgin Killer?
It sounds a little too Joshi for me, and I'm not interested.
I looked it up, and it is. That's exactly what the sweater was. So if you look up Virgin Killer sweater, that's exactly what he was wearing. So
didn't Jungle Jim Steele? Didn't he come into ECW to get chokeslammed by 911?
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah, it was 90.
Is that what you were thinking of?
I think so. Yeah, it didn't go.
That had to be 94.
Yeah, 94 or 95 for sure. I don't think it lasted long. I think it was in the midst of, because like you said, everybody got a shot, and most of the people were Heyman knew sucked, and he just wanted him to go in, get a payday, get beaten up by 911, and then get kicked to the curb.
They were doing the gimmick where they were bringing in the bad television wrestlers specifically to get chokeslammed by 911. That was the bit.
Right.
So I think Jungle Jim Steele may have been one of those guys. That might be what you're thinking of.
Yeah, maybe. But no, my overall point was think of how many things you don't know, and yet without any break, any pause, you went, barefoot, Jungle Jim Steele. Think of your brain and what you how many things you know nothing about.
I know a lot of nothing. Yeah, I know a lot of nothing.
But you know that. Barefoot wrestlers, Jungle Jim Steele. Who's not even. If there was a listicle, if Cultaholic did some dumbass video about 11 wrestlers that are barefoot, Jungle Jim Steele does not come up at all in any of those.
I'm not even positive he was barefoot, to be completely honest.
True. I don't know. I think you're right. I think probably right.
I think no one has heard it yet, but that's kind of like last night where I brought up Tagar, Lord of the Volcano, randomly, and both you and Ethan Tyler were like, "What? Tagar, Lord of the Volcano? What?
That was your go-to Memphis. You're trying to think of a bad Memphis gimmick, and you went. Actually, I don't know if Jungle Jim Steele was barefoot.
I don't know either. I just felt like he should be.
I'm watching a couple clips here. I don't think so. He certainly was not barefoot when 911 chokeslammed him, but I cannot confirm nor deny his WCW Saturday night. Let's see here. At
some point, did he wrestle barefoot? Because I think that for whatever reason, I remember him being barefoot at some point.
Yeah, let's go with him and Honky here. Oh, God damn it.
Well, the guy wore a loincloth, so
he did wear a loincloth.
It would make sense that
September 17th, 1994 versus the Honky Tonk Man. So WCW Saturday night. Let's see. He is wearing boots.
Oh.
He's got boots. He's got a loincloth.
I might be owned here.
You might be owned. Yeah. You don't know shit. Turns out you don't know shit. But
I don't know anything about Jungle Jim Steele. A lot of people, Rich, think that Jungle Jim Steele and the Renegade are the same person, but they're not.
They do look very similar. I could get that for sure.
I could see why in the pre-internet days, a fan may have thought that the Renegade was Jungle Jim Steele, because Jungle Jim Steele had recently been around. They have a
Mhm.
similar body. They have a similar look.
Both terrible,
Similar gimmick.
both awful at
Both
wrestling.
terrible, right? You know, so it's like, but those are not the same men. In fact, I believe Jungle Jim Steele is still alive, at least to my knowledge. I don't think that man, you know, and obviously Rick the Renegade is no longer with us. So,
Jim Steele still alive. 57 years old.
there you go. Not the same guy, former All Asia Tag Team Champion.
I just was about to bring that up. I can't believe he won the All Asia Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know why I remember so much about Jungle Jim Steele. It speaks to your point. Why? You know, ask me the whole Bad Blood card that we reviewed last week. I might get 3 of the 5 matches, but I know that Jungle Jim Steele won the All Asia Tag Team titles, and there's something wrong with my brain. Why did that get retained? Is it because I care more that that Jungle Jim Steele than I do? I think that's what it is. Do you retain things you just not retain things that you don't care about? So like
I do also wonder
WWE
I also do wonder if it's like the time that you acquired all this Jungle Jim Steele knowledge. You were obviously younger,
more locked in,
and maybe that's made it. And the things were a little more special. You know what I mean? You didn't know all. You didn't have but also I think it's care too, because I don't care to remember the Bad Blood card from last week, but. Or Money in the Bank. What was the Money in the Bank card this year? I mean, good God, I couldn't even gun to my head. I couldn't even tell you. I don't know if I can tell you one match from this year's Money in the Bank. I have retained a little bit more from Bad Blood from a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, Money in the Bank. No fucking chance. I could tell you a thing about Money in the Bank, but anyway.
See Meltzer noted that Bad Blood did unusually well on traditional pay-per-view.
I saw that, yeah.
Compared to other WWE pay-per-view offerings, essentially beating everything except for Rumble, SummerSlam, and Mania. That's got to be Punk McIntyre, right?
I think so. Yeah, maybe a little Roman there. Maybe a little Roman.
A little sprinkle.
Yeah, a little sprinkle Roman. But I think the Hell in a Cell. I think that. Yeah. You don't want to.
Gotta be the Punk. Gotta be the Punk.
I assume it would be Punk Drew, but I also do think the Roman coming back and teaming thing. I do want to see how this next year goes, because they may have finally once and for all figured out the Roman thing, and they might actually have somebody that's an actual tangible draw. And all the years where we had to pretend that he was a draw when he wasn't a draw, and a few people, including us, were like, I don't know, he's not quite there yet. He needs more, he's not quite, he's not actually what people think he is, but he might actually be that now. So I'd be very curious to see how the rest of this year goes, for Roman, because they may have finally figured it out with turn him heel, which everybody said to do years and years and years ago. And now he's going to be your biggest babyface in the company.
I don't think there's any doubt that Roman is over as a legitimate drawing star now. I don't even think that's in dispute at this point. That was going to be one of my takes for when we do that Hall of Fame show for, US. But it's funny because here's some more Hall of Fame takes, which it'll give us a chance to plug the Hall of Fame shows that are ongoing behind the paywall right now. It's funny because I think there's no question he's over as a legitimate drawing star at this point, thanks to a little bit of Sami Zayn, a little bit of Cody, a little bit of heel turn. There's a bunch of different factors there. He was heel for a long time and it wasn't working, Rich. It wasn't until they got Sami Zayn in the mix that it really took off.
Of course.
You can go back and look at the numbers there, and then, a little dash of Cody. But I do think he's over now as a legitimate drawing star. But it's funny because now he's doing his worst work of his career.
Oh, it's so atrocious. It's the worst.
He knows he doesn't have to work hard in the matches now, because it's the entrance. It's people waiting around for the next chapter of the Bloodline story. He ain't working hard. It's funny because on the post-Shield babyface run. Now, the Shield run, he was kind of green. He'd come in and do his Superman punch and clean up, and we all knew that Seth was the worker of the three, and Ambrose was the talker of the three, and Reigns was the guy that they were building to be the star. And I don't hold the Shield stuff again. And those were good matches anyway, so I don't hold that against them. Now, the babyface run post-Shield, I think that Roman, his work was like pretty good. his matches were a little formulaic for sure, right? But especially towards the back end of that run, before he went away with the leukemia scare and then came back as the heel, I thought there were times where his work was pretty damn solid. I think I put him in my FSM 50. Well, the mystery voter put him in the FSM 50 a couple times, on the back end. And but then as the bloodline has moved along, his matches have gotten to be so bad. And I don't think it's because he doesn't know how to work anymore, or lost his athleticism.
Oh no, he knows what he's doing. He knows goddamn well what he's doing.
That's my point. I do think it's intentional because he knows that doesn't matter. So why bump and work hard if you don't have to? So I think that's what's going on, because his matches are abysmal. We've talked about.
He doesn't do anything. I mean, especially that bad blood tag, he did nothing in that match. Cody was in there getting beaten on for 95% of the match, tagging Roman. The crowd goes, "Ooh," as Roman does his two little moves or whatever, and then he's out. You know what I mean? And that was it. That's all he did the entire time. And he has other matches. He's boiled it down to the exact science of, okay, I just need to do this thing and this thing and this thing, and I'll be as over as I'm going to be. No matter, I don't have to do anything else. I can do this move. I do a Superman punch. I have my fist go to the mat. I move my arms back behind my shoulders briefly, and then I do a spear, and that's it. That's all I need to do. Check the list. Roll, check the list, and it's like, got it. Good. I come out. I take 45 minutes to get to the ring. Then nobody cares what happens in the ring. I waltz around. Maybe I talk during the match a little bit, and then I do a Superman punch, fist in the mat, shoulder roll thing, spear, and I'm good, and I'm out.
Does he still cock his arm like a shotgun? I haven't noticed if he still does that.
I don't know if he does that anymore.
I don't know either.
I'm trying to remember if he does. I think he dropped that as the heel, but I don't know if he'll bring it back as the babyface. Maybe not.
Right. We don't have enough sample size yet as the babyface. And I got to be honest, that tag we just watched a couple weeks ago was a grab the phone match for sure. So it's like I wasn't totally
locked in on Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu versus Cody and Roman.
Listen,
all right.
I can only take so many Jacob Fatu nerve holds before I'm like, I got to see what's going on with the Rams. I can't. I got to go for the phone, Rich. You can't blame me either.
Hey, it sounds like someone who wouldn't get hired at the Uncrowned. I'll tell you that, if you're not locked in on Solo Sikoa.
The Uncrowned, huh? I was gonna dedicate an entire Flagship Plus to the Uncrowned.
Oh, please do.
I don't know if you want to do it now.
No, please do. That'd be better. That'd be better to lay out. That'd be better to lay out and just let it ride. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I was planning. I was maybe planning. I don't want to pull a Rich Craich and promise content that I'm not going to deliver.
Hey, look, I can review a 2-week-old Stardom show if you really need me to, but I
think the people would appreciate it now that you promised it to them. I can tell you right now, there are many Joshi fans who listen to this show, and they're all waiting for that Stardom review that you promised that you didn't deliver on. And they know. Listen, they all know they're not getting it from me. I mean, they know better, but you promised it.
I did.
Promised it. So now we all know why the nurse is all wound up and cursing all the time, because we could see how Captain Craich operates over here. This guy just flippantly throws around promises, and then he doesn't do the deal. Yeah, but we'll maybe, I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to bury the Uncrowned right now, or do you want me to bury the Uncrowned?
It's up to you. If you feel it in your heart, I think you should do a full Flagship Plus on it.
But
they also deserve to get buried really hard too, so it's tough. I'm very conflicted here because it's brutal. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's a shame that, and my expectations weren't high. Believe me, I kind of understood that this is what we were going to get, but it's just a shame because it's very similar to The Ringer, where you have an outlet that obviously has some money behind it, and more so even than the money. Because I think people might have a misconception too. They're not paying these people, millions of dollars to write these articles. Okay. And they're not, the guys doing the Ringer podcasts are not, raking in dough either, but it's more the exposure that places like the Ringer and Yahoo get that it's disappointing that here we are again with outlets that have this great exposure that can truly do something meaningful and with substance and unique, and maybe help expose people to some wrestling they're not familiar with, and just cover wrestling in a mature and professional and serious way. And once again, we have a major outlet that just chooses to be essentially an unaffiliated PR arm for WWE, which is essentially, it looks like the Uncrowned is going to be. And to me, that's just, I know people want me to scream and yell and do a bit about it, but it really is, because if Yahoo wanted to, if Ariel Helwani wanted to, he could put together a much better team than he has put together here based on the work that I've seen pumped out so far, and really raise the game in wrestling media. And Rich, it's not very hard to raise the game in we're not dealing with bars that are super high to begin with, and somehow outlets like The Ringer and this new Uncrowned gimmick somehow managed to not even clear the exceedingly low bars that we already have in wrestling media in terms of content. So what everyone's talking about is this pound for pound ranking they did today, both on the men's and women's side. And unfortunately, instead of using it to maybe expose a larger audience to Mystico or Kaito Kiyomiya or whoever, or even just treat it like something with some serious insight or analyzation. It's essentially a listicle type list, and of the 20 wrestlers listed, 17 of them are WWE wrestlers. Then you have your 3 AEW wrestlers, because much like The Ringer, where it's WWE content and then they pay sort of token attention to AEW almost because they feel like they have to, because they're on national TV and they have major stars. That's what it looks like the Uncrowned is going to be, with a list of 17 WWE wrestlers and 3 AEW wrestlers. Rich, they didn't even do, usually when outlets like this do stuff like this, one like SI does their year-end awards and things like that, they didn't even do like the one token TNA spot that you usually
right
see.
The token TNA spot or the token New Japan spot, and this would have been a
token
perfect
New
week.
Japan- right.
It's been a perfect week to put Zack Sabre Jr. at 16 and say, the Englishman, defied the odds and won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. The first, didn't even do that. Not even the token spot for the New Japan guy. Not even the token spot for the TNA guy. Just said no. Jey Uso needs his spot. He's gonna get his spot.
Yeah. A lot of times what they'll do, like in the year-end awards and stuff, they'll give one to like a TNA wrestler, usually from the women's roster, to show how diverse they are too.
Right, Jordan Grace. Yeah, Jordan Grace. Wild audiences all year with her.
To show how, listen, our knowledge goes deep. We follow the TNA women's division. You know what I mean? Like, that's usually what they'll pull some. They didn't even bother. This is just 17 out of 20 WWE. And worse than that, like the little capsules for each wrestler, this essentially could have just been an article on WWE.com. It's vapid, empty, useless, no insight, no analysis, just straight up garbage. Like, I'll read you the number 9 women's wrestler in the world, Rich, Naomi, which is a joke in itself.
Oh my God. I didn't even see the list. What?
Here's the capsule for the 9th best women's wrestler pound for pound in the world.
Hold on, Naomi. Are we sure about that? Or what are we?
Now,
okay.
Shtick aside, most critics recognize that Naomi sucks and is completely washed up. I mean, that's not even a controversial take. Nobody thinks Naomi's good anymore. But here's what the Uncrowned had to say about the number 9 pound for pound women's wrestler.
Is she even winning matches? Like, I know she's won a couple here and there, but
well, here it is.
Whatever.
I'll give you
Yeah. Let me know.
Here's what Penn Shamrock.
Yeah. Also, we have pen names too, which is
look
rough.
If I wrote this, I'd be embarrassed to put my name on it.
I guess that.
So that you can look at it that way.
At least come up with a jazzy name, Penn Shamrock. I mean, come on, what are we doing here, man?
Naomi had a big night on SmackDown last Friday, landing a booming powerbomb on Nia Jax and pinning the dominant champion. there's a lot of potential to build on this and carry that momentum into a push many fans have been long calling for. That's the blurb on Naomi. So as you can see, not only are these rankings just totally dominated by WWE wrestlers, but then they're not even writing anything insightful or interesting about the WWE wrestlers. It's Naomi hit a powerbomb on Nia Jax, basically. And fans are clamoring for a Naomi push. And all of it, it's all that bad. Like all of it is just equally vapid and empty. And, you know, a seventh grader can write it. It's just empty junk. There's nothing. And here's the thing. I don't know who this is for. What niche is this filling? As I said, this could appear on WWE.com. These blurbs, they're all in kayfabe. There's nothing interesting or insightful about it. There's no breakdown of the work. It's 100% uncritical. And it's essentially you're just doing free PR for WWE. That's what this is.
Yeah, these are pretty bad. I didn't realize they were as bad as they were. I'm
looking at them now.
I'm looking at the Liv. Yeah, here's the Liv Morgan write-up. She's your number one woman in the world, by the way. Number one women's wrestler in the world is Liv Morgan. Quote, she's the women's world champion for a reason. And yes, she took a lot of damage on Raw from Ripley and Jax, but she was never pinned. And after recently being reunited with Raquel Rodriguez, momentum is on Morgan's side as WWE Crown Jewel draws closer. Do we need that? Who needs this? Who needs this?
This is what I mean. I in all seriousness, it would be easy to come on here and just turn this into a bit and just like rip it to shreds and try to be funny. But what niche is this filling? You can get this type of vapid, empty, nonsensical, useless content quite literally anywhere, including WWE.com, where you can get this kind of content everywhere. Why do I need to go to Yahoo Sports to read stuff as empty and vapid as this? So who are they really serving, right? So from that standpoint, and that's what I'm saying. Now, look, we all know the answer. The answer is WWE's hot right now, and Helwani's strategy here, and I'm going to blame him because, look, this is his vertical,
it's
right?
His side. Yeah, it's his vertical, yeah.
Whether he's hired editors to handle this or whether he's driving the editorial, you know, obviously the idea here is WWE's hot and we're going to heavily focus on WWE because we're in the business of making money on the internet and we want people to click and read the articles. And we know that's the answer. I'm just saying this is all very disappointing because even strictly for super WWE leaning and heavy content, there's nothing even remotely interesting about any of this, you know, and you probably could have hired people who have a little more of a critical eye and told them, hey, look, the job is writing about WWE with a sprinkle of AEW, take it or leave it. And you may have found some talented people with good insight to do that who would have done this and maybe made it a little more interesting at least. But, you know, there's a Dynamite review. If you scroll a little further down and it is just basically, I can't even call it a review. It's a recap and it's totally uncritical. It's tissue soft. It's basically just, here's some stuff that happened. It doesn't even attempt to be funny. There's no humor in it. It's just a rundown of what happened on Dynamite last night. And there's no analysis. There's no criticism. There's no attempt to give any insight on the segments. It's just, MVP did a promo and here's what he said. And it's like, again, who is this for? Right? There's plenty of this on the internet already. And I'm just not sure why now look, I can't speak to the MMA or boxing content on the Uncrowned because I haven't checked it out. Plus I'm not a huge fan of either one of those things. So I probably never will, but I just don't understand the purpose of this wrestling content if it's going to be this empty and vapid. And I don't understand who it's serving because I feel like people who want this kind of content are being served already. And it really does bother me that first the Ringer and now these guys have a chance to really raise the game and really be bad news for niche places like us, right? If they went out and hired some people who know what they're doing and know how to write and have good insight and we're going to cover wrestling in a mature, critical way, that's only going to hurt us. But I still would prefer to see that because I'd like to see everybody's game raised instead of the absolute clown show that is wrestling media. And I don't need places like Yahoo and The Ringer to join in on the clown show because we have enough clowns in this circus. And we're just adding more. We're just adding more. So I found it disappointing that this is the shit that they put out.
Yeah, I was interested. I was interested when they started because, anytime there's a new wrestling vertical, I was interested when The Ringer got involved in it. I'm always interested when major media outlets, ESPN even, when ESPN got in the game, I got kind of interested as well to say, all right, let's see what we're going to do here. Let's see if we can raise the game. And really of all of it, the highlight, really the only highlight we're probably ever going to get is Phil Schneider getting hired by The Ringer. And that was like, hey, Phil Schneider, is going to write Phil Schneider stuff on The Ringer. And that was pretty amazing. Like in the sea of pretty, things going on the Ringer. And I think The Ringer's wrestling coverage, written wise, is 1,000 times better than this Uncrowned stuff, by the way, because at least they had some analysis.
Oh God, yeah.
It was features, it was analysis, it was some real, it was well written. It had something of substance. It had some sort of value. And Phil,
Phil Schneider could write his ass off. I mean, no one's denying that.
Oh no, yeah, and even
no matter
the
what
guys
you think of his opinions,
of course, yeah, and even the guys outside of Phil, I think there was some, at least for the most part, had something to offer the game. And this Uncrowned thing
Cameron Hawkins was writing features for The Ringer, and I don't know if he still is, but he did write a feature for the Uncrowned on Trick Williams. I haven't read it. I'm sure it's several steps above this schlock because I've read Cameron Hawkins. I read his Ricky Starks piece. I read his Dax Harwood piece. Now, while those type of personality profiles don't do a ton for me personally, okay, I can't sit here and tell you that they weren't well written and that they weren't of the standard of the other writing on The Ringer. And if his piece on Trick Williams is anything like those, and I'm sure it is, okay, because that's his lane. What Cameron Hawkins, who some people might know as Seahawk, okay, no matter what you think of his Twitter persona, which a lot of people are put off by him, and I get it, believe me, I get it. His writing, okay, and these personality pieces it's sound writing,
yeah,
and it didn't feel out of place on The Ringer. His so I'm going to just assume and give the benefit of the doubt that the Trick Williams piece that he put up that I haven't looked at yet, I've only looked at this top 10 deal and the Dynamite review, is of that quality. So I just wanted to throw that in there since you were talking about other stuff that you read on The Ringer. Yeah,
this thing is just, I mean, what are you getting here that you couldn't get from an official company website or get from an aggregator just giving you the results? Because there's no shortage of places that just give you the results, you know what I mean, or just write up the results, and even other big sites too, like F4W Online will do a review of an episode of Dynamite, but it's largely just a recap of Dynamite with a few thoughts, thrown in here and there, and it's just it's weird because I had this discussion with Case Lowe, and I think I've talked about it on the show as well. Case Lowe, obviously, who writes the Dragon Gate reviews for us, co-host to Open the Voice Gate. We were talking about looking for something, and we're trying to look at some other thoughts about a match, because I think he was super, super high on a match, and he was like, I feel like I'm like completely on an island. I want to see if everybody else thinks the same thing I think about this match. And we realized nobody else writes about wrestling that way anymore. Nobody reviews wrestling. Nobody really analyzes wrestling anymore. If you look at the landscape and you look at what happens in totality, is you get podcasts. The problem is everybody that was writing something about wrestling now sort of does podcasts, and you have to kind of sift through hours and hours and hours of podcasts to get any sort of thoughts on what people think about anything. But in terms of written content, in terms of written reviews, in terms of reviewing a show the way that we do at voicesofwrestling.com still, where I always tell people, tell me what you thought of the match, tell me what you think of the people, don't recap, don't give me the move by move, don't recap what happened. I always tell people, if you're going to review, think of the person reading this review has already watched the match and wants to know what you thought of it, and give me the what and the why and all that sort of stuff. I don't need the here's what happened. That's just that I don't need that. It's completely worthless because so many other places are going to do that. But we realize that it's like, man, nobody else writes about wrestling. Like if you wanted to say, I'm curious what X thinks about this wrestling match, it's going to be very hard to find that anywhere. You're going to get a lot of recaps. You might get some tweets here and there, some quick little hitter tweets, maybe some emojis, quote tweeted on a move gift out there, but yeah, not many people are really sitting down and saying, hey, here's what I think about this match, and not many other websites are doing it either. And I think that's the more shocking thing, is that you go, and a lot of places have results, so you get results of events, And some places have recaps, but really they're kind of like this Uncrowned thing where it's just like, here's what happened on the show. And it's like, man, tell me what you think. Like, tell me why this matters. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need Adam Cole came out. He cut a promo. MJF got called out. We'll see what happens next time when Adam Cole and MJF get in the ring. And it's like, who needs that? What good is that?
Now, look, I think it's impossible to ignore that. You have to suspect fairly that they're afraid to be too critical because Ariel Helwani wants to interview these people on his show. How can you ignore that could be a factor here? And I don't know that it is, but we all know that how the wrestling business operates and how these egos are fragile and how, the now it's become a meme that's maybe gotten out of control. But we know how legental activity works, Rich. I don't think a hypercritical outlet that operates the way that we do, I'm not sure that could work on a mainstream scale. Not with the hypercritical eye that I don't know if that could work.
Yeah, probably can't.
If in all honesty, I think we occupy a certain lane and there to a certain extent, it probably caps our growth and all those things. I don't know any other way though. I can't approach this any other way. I can't approach this any other way that isn't going to hurt feelings sometimes. I can't do it. I'm not capable of it. But it's just, to me, every time a Ringer or a Yahoo Sports or whoever else or SI and Justin Barrasso would come close sometimes, but he couldn't even get all the way there. Every time one of these outlets decides to go full steam ahead into wrestling, it just deeply disappoints me because it's an opportunity to really do it in a serious way and a way that could, how nice would it have been if we woke up this morning to these top 10 lists? And I'm not saying to exclude I'm not even saying you can't be WWE heavy. They're the biggest company in the world. But how nice would it have been if they were a little more diverse in terms of worldwide wrestlers and exposing people to wrestlers that they might not be familiar with and not as token gestures, but because you had a perfect example. How do you do something like this and release it today and you don't have Zack Sabre Jr. in your list? It's just, that's inexcusable. I'm not saying you have to dig deep and have some DDT rookie in there, but Zack Sabre Jr. just won the IWGP title. And it's a wrestler that a lot of even these readers would be familiar with anyway. And it's just sad.
Right. You don't have to have him number one. I get it. I get that you're not going to have him number one, but Jesus Christ, you can have him number 8. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's fine to have him number 8. Jimmy Uso will be okay if he's not on the top 10. It's all right.
Well, instead, we're told that LA Knight is the number 5 pound for pound male wrestler in the world.
5? So, yeah. Number 5? LA Knight is number 5. Pound for pound. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
LA Knight.
Well,
Eli Drake, Sean Ricker, Slate Randall.
Yeah. It says the man's cutting high-level promos and landing gnarly BFTs. What's not to love? Knight's also a great follow on Twitter. Link, often engaging in trash talk with opponents. Kayfabe, baby. End quote.
Oh, fuck me.
I mean, this is the kind of shit that we're pumping out.
That's awful.
This is, it's like the Ringer podcasts. I know Dopey Pete, his show's not on the Ringer anymore, but that Dopey Pete show with the stat guy Greg, Rich, that we've often mocked here, the cheat heat. You couldn't have a less insightful, bigger waste of an hour each week in terms of wrestling content than that. And the Ringer shows that got left behind, I mean, the show that Shoemaker's on is a little better. I mean, it's replacement level for in terms of wrestling, but everything else on the Ringer is just it's absolute garbage that you can't glean any kind of insight or perspective from. And it's,
gnarly.
As I said,
gnarly.
It's 90% WWE and it's 10% as one of the Ringer hosts so aptly described it in the way that they see these things. The other 10% is the side chick, AEW, as they once described it. AEW is like being married and having, to a great wife and having, this little side chick that you pay attention to every now and then. I mean, that was, I'm paraphrasing, but that was his comp. And that's how that's how Yahoo appears to be treating AEW as well. And look, it's the complete ignoring of the rest of the rest. It's just, it doesn't have to be this way. And then maybe if sites like Yahoo and The Ringer would try a little harder to cover the entire world of wrestling, maybe they'd be surprised by again, they don't have to, you don't have to dedicate everything around, Arena Mexico. I understand it. These are businesses and they have to have the WWE lean. I get it, but does the content have to be this empty? Who is this for?
Yeah, that's
whoever this is for. They're being served already. So why do we need you? What purpose are you serving? What niche are you filling?
That's a very important thing to think about. If anybody out there is looking to get, and it's not just a wrestling thing. I think it applies to any sort of media outlet, and it's something that I always tell everybody because I get a lot of people that will pitch me on column ideas or podcasts or whatever, and I always say, what are you going to do that nobody else is doing? Because if you're doing something that someone else is already doing, I'm not that interested because they're going to probably just listen to that other thing. But if you can tell me that you're doing something that nobody else is doing or do it in a different way, then I'm listening. But if it's just, hey, I'm going to review Raw, like, okay, no. But what are you going to do to be different than the other 15 people that review Raw? Oh, I'm going to do, I want to cover this old wrestling. Okay, what are you going to do better than everybody else that covers this old wrestling? I think it's an important way to think about it. Is what do you do, and why would somebody choose you over what else is out there? And I know it kind of sucks to tell somebody that, like when they're just starting an idea for a show or a podcast or whatever. But I think it's important to think about. I think that's something that I thought about from day one with Voice of Wrestling, and I think we thought about from day one with the Flagship. Is like, let's do something that nobody else is doing, and it might not work, but at least we'll be able to carve out a little niche, and then maybe it does work. Maybe it does. And I think, goddamn, we're here 13 years later. I think it has worked a little bit for sure. And we've done it our own way and kind of said, all right, what is and we talk about all the time, what is a region of wrestling that not many other people are covering that we're into? We're going to go deep into that. We're going to try to cover that like nobody else is going to do. And we did that with New Japan Pro Wrestling. We do that a lot with All Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL. We did it a lot with Dragon Gate in the early days of the show is the indies, US indies, Dragon Gate USA, Evolve, that sort of stuff. Nobody else was really doing that. We said, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's cover it better than anybody else can cover it. But yeah, if you're just going to come at me with these kayfabe articles, I can just go to WWE.com and get these kayfabe articles. Why do I need to go to The Uncrowned? It's bizarre, but I don't know. I thought it was going to be a little bit better than this, and I'm already very disappointed by how bad it really is.
You're hiring people that are just they don't want to be critical. They just want to. They're WWE fans who want to just pump up. I mean, Jade Cargill #7. I would appreciate if one of these major sites would, instead of rating Jade Cargill the 7th best women's wrestler in the world, acknowledge that she's been a massive flop to this point. How about someone have the guts to do that? I mean, that'd be at least interesting. And you're going to have a lot of people get mad at you and disagree, but at least it's interesting. What's interesting about Cargill's strength can't be replicated. Her movements resemble those of a superhero, and the pairing with Belair indicates we might get used to hearing "and still" for the foreseeable future. Oh, that's straight off WWE.com. But what's interesting about that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. How about do these lists and break down their work? How about talk ball? No one does that. You just laid that out. Tiffany Stratton's #8. How about break down how she's coming along as bell to bell? That'd be interesting. Have a fucking opinion. Have a fucking opinion. Have something I can nod along with, or have something that makes me think you're fucking stupid. I disagree with that. There's nothing even from that standpoint with this crap. And it is a little frustrating that this will get 100 times the clicks anything I do will get.
Yep.
and it's like there's nothing here. It's vapid. There's nothing interesting about this. And we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. We've carved a nice little niche. We do all right. All right? That Patreon numbers are public. You're not hiding nothing. We're doing all right. But this is just junk. It's disposable junk. And honestly, Helwani should be embarrassed because I don't get, there's criticisms of his MMA, history, but I don't think his work is this is like disposable junk, like this wrestling shit that his site is putting out. It's disposable junk. And he has the means and the outlet and the backing to do so much better. You know, so and you know, he was leaning into it. I saw him tweet something earlier today. Has everyone seen our pound for pound rankings? And then he sarcastically said, like, "Oh, I'm glad everybody agrees with all of the picks." It's sad that even someone like him is going to play the game, the engagement game, and the bullshit lowest common denominator game. You know, when this could have been so much more, and it could have been so much better, but it's not. And what are you going to do? We got Penn Shamrock, who's embarrassed to put his name on this dribble. You know, it's because the reviews are just so they're just so nothing that maybe they're just taking turns and rotating reviewing it. So instead of just give a pen name for everyone, and that way, you know, it could be a rotating cast of people that are just, because there's nothing to these reviews. Or as you said, maybe it's someone embarrassed to be writing about wrestling because maybe their primary gig is writing about boxing or some other legitimate sport, and they don't want to have wrestling credits to their resume on the internet forever, you know, and especially something as empty as this. I mean, this is one step above AI. You could have AI pump this out and then clean it up, right, and make it sound like.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's not. I mean, what you read right there is not far off. I'll tell you that.
No,
as somebody
it isn't.
who reads AI stuff
harsh.
a lot, it's not far off. Yeah, that could probably be replaced pretty quickly. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Well. All right. Well, anyway, that was going to be my Flagship Plus, but I guess we just
damn it. Well, that's all right. So now you're off the hook. You could do something else. You can watch that Stardom show. Stardom Golden Fight in Nagoya, I think, is the show if you want to catch up. And
here's the thing: I'm never watching that. Okay. How about that?
That's fair.
I have no interest in Stardom or the. I just don't want anything to do with Joshi culture. They can't pick on me because I don't have nothing to do with it. So they can't come for me. Okay, I want nothing to do with it. So that keeps me out of trouble.
Smart.
Because let's be honest. Could you imagine my style of review?
No, don't ever. Please do not. Dear
doing
God.
Joshi? They can't handle it, Rich.
They cannot handle it. No.
They would not be able to handle it. You're
the Marigolders would get quite upset if
yeah.
If
now, not every Joshi fan's cut from the same cloth, but the kind that gets kiss cards in the mail, they can't handle my reviews. It's better that I stay out of it. If you've got Siri or whoever sending you fucking lipstick kiss cards in the mail, chances are you're not going to appreciate a Joe Lanza Marigold review, right? I mean, let's just be honest here.
All right, so let's get to plenty of other topics to get
Notice
to.
how you're tugging that collar, boy.
You stay right out of it. That was Joe Lanza, everybody. Joe Lanza. We are going to talk several other topics tonight. We're going to go into New Japan Pro Wrestling. A lot of New Japan topic. Going to be a heavy New Japan show here as we're going to review King of Pro Wrestling, preview the Royal Quest show coming up this weekend. Quickly jump into the Power Struggle card as well, November 4th, right around the corner. And we're also going to do RevPro Global Wars, kind of a sister show to the Royal Quest show. RevPro has a big show this weekend, including a big-time main event with Luke Jacobs and Tomohiro Ishii. Now, I know you did a lot of that during Flagship Plus, so we're not going to get into huge details, but I just kind of want to run down the cards again so people are aware that they're coming up this weekend.
Are you kidding? We're not going to get in extreme detail?
Of course.
You really mean that?
Well, I don't know if, like, Will Craven and Cameron Kai we're going to go 15 minutes on, but it surprised me. Maybe we will. Maybe we will.
Maybe we will. There's not much to talk about this week. I mean, we already had to do an impromptu segment to fill the time.
Well, I got a segment coming up later that'll fill a good amount of time.
I
got a little surprise for you. Got a little surprise for you. Yeah. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. They're debuting this weekend. Scott D'Amore's a new company. A lot of big names. Unfortunately, it is booked by Scott D'Amore. So my intrigue is, if I just give you the list of names that are booked for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling this weekend, you might go, "Oh man, all right, I'm listening." Then I'll give you some of the matches, and I think you might. Well, we're kind of we're relatively low on Scott D'Amore's booking, so we'll discuss it a little bit later. I'm gonna watch it.
If we're doing Maple Leaf Wrestling, you know we're light on top. But you got the Maple Leaf Wrestling next this week.
Are you kidding? Come on, you got Bully Ray versus Raj Jesse tables match, man. That's big news. That's huge news.
Rich, I have come equipped with takes.
Okay, good. See,
so I'm ready to discuss the Maple Leaf Wrestling.
NXT ratings on the CW. We're checking with NXT as they move to the CW, and their latest rating this week tells an interesting tale for sure about maybe what's going to be happening with CW and NXT moving forward. But I do want to take a little bit of time before we get into some of those other topics to talk about the passing of Joe Koff, the former Ring of Honor COO, passed away earlier this week at the age of 73. And what I think is interesting is his impact on the current world of wrestling is probably a lot larger than most people think. Most people might remember Joe Koff as like kind of the white-haired guy that ran Ring of Honor after Kerry Silken. I think that's probably the way most people would remember him. Obviously a Sinclair broadcasting employee, that sort of. So if that's how you know him, and it's like, Sinclair took over, and he was kind of the figurehead guy that was in charge at Sinclair of running Ring of Honor until it eventually got sold to Tony Khan. Like, that's maybe what you know of Joe Koff. But I think he meant a lot more to the business than a lot of people know about. And I thought Mike Johnson, we've been pretty harsh on Mike Johnson over the last, several months at PW Insider about his work, but he did a great write-up. One of these write-ups that you always talk about it with Dave Meltzer. When the rubber has to meet the road and someone really has to sit down and put something out there, a lot of these new school aggregator, newsbreakers, scoopsters, or whatever, they can't do that sort of stuff. But Dave Meltzer, when he has to crack his knuckles,
they don't have the chops,
right? And Dave Meltzer has to crack his knuckles and write something. It's like, oh my God, here's how it's supposed to be. And Mike Johnson, for all his faults, when he has to crack those knuckles and write something like this, thousands and thousands of words about Joe Koff, like, he can do it in a way that a lot of these other guys can't. So I thought that was a great write up there. So. Maybe turn on your ad blocker. That's all I'll say. But pwinsider.com if you want to read his write up on Joe Koff. But I think he's really impactful to the world of wrestling because as Mike Johnson plays out or writes in his article, is Kerry Silken, who obviously ran Ring of Honor post Rob Feinstein. I don't know if we have to go into the entire history of Ring of Honor, but Kerry Silken was a ticket broker. What's the best way to describe Kerry Silken's shoot job? Ticket broker, ticket seller. What would you say?
That was it. Yeah, he's a ticket scalper. That's what he is.
Ticket scalper. That's broker seems to be the nicer term, right? But scalper's probably what it is.
There
but
the idea.
In the Hawaiian shirts, broker.
I don't want to. I don't want to suggest that he was like those shady characters standing outside the Meadowlands Arena when I was a teenager trying to sneak into Nets games, with a fistful of tickets, and
he may have quite literally been one of those guys, right? Isn't there a real good chance he was one of those guys?
And we'd walk by and we'd make eye contact, and they'd make the eye contact. It'd be like a drug deal, and then we'd both nod. And we'd go and meet over in some corner, and then they'd peddle tickets to us that we weren't entirely sure were real. I'm not saying that was Kerry Silken, okay? I'll never forget this one guy. I was wearing my I went to go see the Suns and the Nets during the Barkley day when Barkley was on the Suns.
Thunder Dan, yeah, that's a hell of a team there.
I was wearing
Kevin
this
Johnson,
god-awful
yeah.
I was wearing a god-awful Phoenix Suns like Apex parka.
That's a hell of a no. Don't say god-awful. What are you talking about? That's a great.
No, it's terrible.
No,
it's terrible.
You're wrong. You're wrong. That was great.
It 100% stopped me from getting laid at least twice.
Oh, who cares? Who cares? You got laid later in life. Who gives a shit? You got laid later in life.
I sure did. You
still got it? I'll buy it off you right now. You still have that thing or what?
I don't have it.
Does your mom have it?
I remember, and I made the mistake of, so the scalper calls us over. He's like, I got two right behind the Suns bench. And, of course I fell for it. And it was not right behind the Suns bench, Rich. Let's just put it that way. So I'm not suggesting that was Kerry Silken, outside of Madison Square Garden, selling tickets to undercover cops and getting busted for the third time that week. But yeah, the man was a ticket broker. Let's go with that.
So he obviously was running Ring of Honor and paying for Ring of Honor and financing Ring of Honor post Rob Feinstein. So he's kind of the first guy that saves Ring of Honor because Ring of Honor should have gone under. And I did a long write-up about this, flagshippatreon.com, about a year and a half ago. I forget, the anniversary had passed of all the Feinstein stuff going down and basically Ring of Honor going into a weekend of shows thinking that they were dead because the guy that was their money man had, you can read all about it there if you don't know the Rob Feinstein thing. But Kerry Silken comes in at the final minute and says, no, I'll finance this thing and I'll run it. And the peak era of Ring of Honor is largely under Kerry Silken's watch. He's the guy who's kind of financing it, but Ring of Honor is not making money. It's not a money-making operation. Basically, Kerry Silken's doing it as a passion project. It's all being, Ring of Honor is being funded by him selling tickets. selling, aftermarket tickets, ticket brokering, Broadway shows. I think was his big ticket realm was the Broadway shows was what Kerry Silken was really the mastermind of. But regardless, that's what was kind of financing Ring of Honor for a long time. But what had happened is by 2009, Kerry's starting to look at the finances going, okay, look, I love this shit and I want to keep this thing alive, but I just don't. It's not it's not working for me anymore. I'm not making money. We're not doing as well. The tickets are drying, my business is drying up a little bit. I'm closing this thing. And basically Mike Johnson writes in the piece that it was supposed to be that Manhattan Center show with Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. Manhattan Center, right? I forget if it was Hammerstein or Manhattan Center. I want to say it was Manhattan Center, but 2009, Bryan
same
Danielson.
Building, so it just
one of
different
I forget
rooms
which
in the same building.
Yeah,
so
I forget where that one was specifically at, but it was going to be Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, and they were going to have
the venue is the Manhattan Center,
right?
And it's Hammerstein Ballroom and Grand Ballroom.
Okay.
The Grand Ballroom is the smaller room. Hammerstein Ballroom is the one that ECW One Night Stand. It's where, that's the big room with the balconies that everybody associates with.
Right.
And then there's Grand Ballroom, which is the slightly smaller room that ROH would also run. So if you're ever in a conundrum, just say Manhattan Center and you can't.
And you're good to go. Okay. So September 26, 2009, I found the exact show. So that was Glory by Honor, the final countdown, which was very ominous in many different ways, because what was going to happen is Nigel McGuinness was going to go to WWE and Bryan Danielson was going to go to WWE. Now, Bryan Danielson obviously went there. Nigel McGuinness did not, because he didn't pass a physical and all that sort of stuff happened with Nigel McGuinness. But it was going to be, he said, let's have the main event be, actually, it was wild. It was a semi-main event at the Young Bucks versus the Briscoes, which is a hell of a match. Chris Hero versus Eddie Kingston's on that show. American Wolves versus El Generico and Kevin Steen. Like, we were eating good, man. Ring of Honor, man. Peak Ring of Honor. God damn. Incredible. Kenny Omega on that show, too, facing Claudio Castagnoli. But the main event was going to be Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. They were going to work their ass off, have an all-time great match, and they had a great match. And what was going to happen is the show was going to end, and then Kerry was going to say, thank you all for your supporting Ring of Honor. We're done. We're closing up shop. Ring of Honor's done. Our DVDs are not selling anymore. I'm not making as much money in the ticket business. We're done. Ring of Honor is dead. That was going to be the moment. But as luck would have it, enough pieces fell into place at the exact right time. And as Mike Johnson points out, TNA fired Jim Cornette like the week before. So Jim Cornette was working in TNA. They fired him. And he used to work at Ring of Honor. So he thought, okay, well, I have another landing spot. I have Ring of Honor. He comes to find out, no, you don't, because the guy that's running Ring of Honor is about to close it. So Jim Cornette says, whoa, hold on a minute. Hold on. I have guys. Let me talk to some guys. So he talks to Gary Juster, who then talks to Joe Koff. And Joe Koff used to do sales for Championship Wrestling from Florida when they used to do the Battle of the Belts shows. He would do some local promoting and stuff for Championship Wrestling from Florida. So he was aware of wrestling, and he still worked at Sinclair, or he had moved over to Sinclair and had liked wrestling and was interested in wrestling still.
He was a fan, too.
He was still a fan. So Gary Juster says, well, let me make a call. He calls Joe Koff. Joe Koff says, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm kind of interested in that. Joe Koff then decides to get as many guys in a room as possible and tries to pitch it to the Sinclair guys. Let's buy this thing. It's great, easy programming for all of our networks. We have 200 plus networks across the country. We could buy this thing relatively low cost. We don't have to license, Seinfeld and all these other TV shows. We can instead put Ring of Honor television, on our network, and I think it'll do well. And as Mike Johnson says, he doesn't believe a lot of the Sinclair guys really bought it, but they bought Joe. They liked Joe Koff. So they said, you know what? Fine. If you want to do it, Joe, you can do it. And as he said, it was kind of not necessarily a gold watch, but it was more of the, you know what? If this guy wants to buy this thing, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of money, but he's a nice guy and he sells well. So you know what, Joe? If you want to buy it, buy it. And Joe Koff buys Ring of Honor. And Sinclair buys Ring of Honor and keeps it alive when Kerry Silken was ready to close up shop in 2009. And now think of, obviously, what happened with Ring of Honor over the next decade, which is pretty good. There's a lot of really good in that next decade. Now, was it as good as the peak? I would argue no, but a lot of people got a lot of good paying jobs for a lot of years because of Joe Koff and because he kept Ring of Honor alive through the pandemic too. And I think Mike Johnson does a great job of laying out how important and how very responsible Joe Koff was during the pandemic with Ring of Honor. We talked about it all the time. We put Ring of Honor over so much because they were so careful about stuff, but everybody got paid. Everybody got paid. And when eventually they had people come back, they were the most strict people about doing testing and make sure everybody was okay and everybody was good and everybody was fine and all that sort of stuff. And everybody else was getting flippant about it pretty quickly because they realized, fuck, we got to make some money here. And he never did. And Ring of Honor never did, much to their detriment. Much to their detriment, because post-pandemic, Ring of Honor was basically nothing. You know what I mean? It was dead. Nobody cared. It was just dying on the vine. And that's when Joe Koff says, all right, I'm done with this thing. I'm ready to move on. I'm going to sell this thing. Now, of course.
And, very quickly,
yeah.
right before the pandemic, too, they had invested in a bunch of new talent.
Right. We had that whole show.
Before.
Oh, my God. Do you remember that show we did where we were like, Ring of Honor in 2020 is going to be something to be reckoned with? They had Bandito and Marty Scurll. This was before
Slex, the business.
Slex the business. Adam
Brooks.
Yeah.
And all these guys. They invested heavily. They hired Marty Scurll as the booker because Scurll did not get hired by AEW. People think that was a bidding war. The story will come out one day. It in fact was not. Tony Khan was never going to hire Marty Scurll, and he will never hire Marty Scurll. That's just never, just one day that tale may be able to be told, but it's nothing nefarious. So it's because nothing was known about Marty Scurll. It wasn't, so that it's not even because of any of that, but they hired Marty Scurll as the booker. They hired all of this talent. And then the pandemic happens, and
they were going to go live too, which is actually something that Mike Johnson points out too. And I forgot that they were going to go weekly live too on the Sinclair networks and really try to, like you said, more investment of let's see. There's a niche. Joe Koff saw the same niche that Tony Khan saw and said, you know what, we can maybe do something with this little opening that's here. So let's maybe do something with this thing. So they invested heavily.
And then speaking out happened. So they had to fire Marty Scurll. So that fell apart. And so he ultimately didn't end up booking for very long. And then during the pandemic, like you said, they were paying everybody, but a lot of the people they hired during the pandemic, they didn't bring back after the pandemic. They tried to run some empty arena stuff during the pandemic. Jonathan Gresham got his big push during the pandemic. And then post-pandemic, and this is where I interrupted you, this is where it all starts to fall apart.
Yeah, right. And that's where it's nothing's happening here. And Joe Koff decides, okay, I'm selling this thing. I'm done. I'm getting out of the wrestling business. And the two, mentions that a couple people reached out to purchase it, and one of them was WWE, of course, that wanted the tape library of Ring of Honor. And then Joe Koff got word that Tony Khan was interested in buying Ring of Honor, and not to have the tape library, but to keep Ring of Honor alive. So Joe Koff said, all right, pay me this and it's yours. And Tony Khan said, yeah, I'll do that. Pay you this, and I'll take Ring of Honor off your hands. And that's here we are now. I mean, whatever you want to say about current Ring of Honor, the fact that it is still live and it is still airing and it still has pay-per-views and that sort of stuff is also a testament to Joe Koff, because Joe Koff could have taken the first offer from WWE and said, great, I'm wiping my hands of this thing and I'm out and I'm good, and Ring of Honor will be dead and I won't care. But largely, as Mike Johnson points out in that piece, Joe wanted to see it survive in some form or fashion. So when Tony said, I'm going to keep it alive, he said, okay, I want you to purchase this thing then, and basically made a they made a deal that would work out well for both parties, and Tony Khan now owns Ring of Honor, and obviously Ring of Honor is still running shows, doing pay-per-views, all that sort of, and that's, pretty important, I think, to Joe Koff's legacy as well, that he could have very easily just taken the money and run, and this shit would have been parked in WWE Vault, trickle out uploads, or maybe thrown onto Peacock or whatever, maybe, or they just bought it because they want to have all of wrestling history. They don't really care who else has it or where it is or whatever. That's all it was. But I'm very, very glad. And whatever you want to say about the current state of Ring of Honor, be very glad that Tony Khan owns it and not WWE. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and Joe Koff, being a wrestling fan, came in handy twice. It came in handy when it basically saved the company twice. It saved it the first time around when Carey could have just shut it all down and stopped losing all of his money. And he saved the legacy of ROH the second time by pushing for it to be sold to Tony Khan instead of WWE, because Joe Koff was probably keenly aware of what would happen to Ring of Honor and the legacy of Ring of Honor if Sinclair sold it to WWE. So from that standpoint, we were very lucky as people who care about the curation of the history of wrestling. And look, Ring of Honor is not a show that I pay any attention to right now because I haven't liked anything that I've seen on that Watch ROH version of the show where Tony's basically just, it's barely a pulse of keeping it alive. But it's not possible that Ring of Honor as a brand, Ring of Honor as a promotion comes back. I think Tony very much wants to do that. And the fact that he's even said recently, look, I'm even open to branding it as AEW presents Ring of Honor if that's what it takes, which he seemed to have been too stubborn to do. I think he wanted to make something work with ROH where he wouldn't have to do that. He had been very steadfast in wanting them to be two different companies. I even think at one point he said that it's two different sets of books. I think technically they are two different companies.
Yeah, because he owns Ring of Honor outright, and I don't believe. I mean, like, you know, obviously Shad and whatever. What's the company? They just revealed it last weekend, or Brand Thurston, I think, got the exact company of what it is.
Yeah, I forget
Awesome
the name
Productions or whatever the hell it is. That's
whatever the name is.
Technically the LLC that owns AEW. I believe
In
Ring
Delaware,
of Honor,
of course. In Delaware, of course, where all the billionaires set up shop.
Yeah.
But,
Come on. There's so many businesses running in Delaware. Yeah, of course.
How often does Tony go to Delaware? You think?
How often do you think Tony Khan has ever been to Delaware?
Is he hanging out in Dover? What's he doing?
Oceans. I'm trying to think of some other. I think Dover is the only town I know in Delaware. I'm trying to think of other.
Maybe he's going to Blue Hens games on Saturdays.
Wilmington's in Delaware, right? Is Wilmington in Delaware?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I know
another
two.
big
I
industrial
know Dover
city where a lot of
Wilmington.
No, man, no doubt about it. You know, and for such a small state, I mean, I had a fairly wealthy uncle who lived in a very affluent part in North Delaware, and then of course there's South Delaware, which is lower, slower Delaware, as the locals call it, which is very much NASCAR country, and near the Maryland border, and down by Sandy Fork, basically, Rich. Lower, slower Delaware, which they embrace, by the way, the people of lower, slower Delaware, but for such a small state, there's like three very distinct cultures. There's the affluent part of the state up by the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware triangle by the Delaware Water Gap. And then there's the industrial part of the state because so many industries like to set up shop there for tax purposes and everything, like legitimately, not just on paper, like, the cons do and so many others do.
Every trucking company ever, by the way, if you ever drive by, if a semi truck drives by and you go Delaware, that's interesting. Why are so many semi trucks have Delaware licenses? Well, there you go.
And then there's lower, slower Delaware with all the NASCAR fans, and you think you're in somewhere in the middle of Alabama if you get lost in that part of Delaware. But luckily, Delaware is so small that you could find your way out of there pretty easily. So it's Delaware is a funny state. I know a lot. Being from up there, I know a lot about.
Yeah,
Delaware,
I know nothing. I know nothing of Delaware. I know Sandy Fork, I know Wilmington, and I know Dover because of the Dover Speedway. But that's about it. So that's all I know of Delaware. Don't think I'll ever go to Delaware. I don't think it's in the cards to ever find a. That might be the one
drive
state.
Through if you're going somewhere like if you.
I feel like you can avoid it if you're going most places. Like I think no matter where I was going, I'd probably avoid it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're driving from like New York to DC or something, you probably have to go through. You don't have to, but you could go through Delaware.
That's what I mean. Like I don't think you have to. Can't you go from DC? I guess you would have to. Yeah, I guess you'd have to. You'd have to go through it at least a little bit, right?
You would if you're going somewhere in Maryland. I had a girlfriend who went to college in Maryland, so we would go see her college friends a lot in Maryland. You have to, we drive through Delaware. If you live in Maryland or Virginia and you want to go to like Atlantic City, you might have to drive north through Delaware to get to Atlantic City.
It looks like are you driving through Delaware for like literally like 5 minutes though? It looks very small.
It's a very small state. I mean, you're not there long. I mean, you're passing through. You don't even have to take a piss break. You could just, pass right through. But even Maryland is like a very thin state. Like you get through Maryland pretty quickly too, depending on where you're going. The one that takes a long time is if like you're cutting through Virginia. Whenever I drive through Virginia, I feel like I'm there for 6 days. I don't know what it is.
That's Indiana. That's our Indiana, where you're just like, fuck, why am I still in Indiana? I've been driving for 7 hours and I'm still in fucking Indiana. How is this possible?
And Virginia is also where you first encounter cows. Like if you're coming from New Jersey, New York, like when you get to Virginia, oh, I'm in Virginia, I see cows. And then it's just cows for the rest of the country. I don't think people that aren't from the United States realize that. It's just fucking farmland
Just
Everyone
cows
thinks
everywhere.
of the two coasts. And Chicago. Chicago and the two coasts. Everything else is fucking cows if you drive through America. Unless you're in the Rocky Mountains. Then it's goats or whatever the fuck. What lives in the mountains?
Goats. Yeah,
Rams?
mostly a lot of
You got
goats.
Rams out there?
Yeah, you get some lambs, some rams, goats, yeah, that
Get
sort of
some
stuff.
rams?
Yeah, a lot of
Like
still a
some
lot of
with the-
cows too. Yeah, a lot of cows there
With the
too.
the curly horns and
Yeah,
everything? Like,
yeah.
can you keep one of them as a pet? Could I have one like in the backyard?
Yeah, I think you probably could.
Or are they gonna try to ram the kids? Like,
yeah. How much interaction are you having with this ram? I think if you can have
I
it
just
in
want
the
it for
yard,
the bit, you know.
yeah, I don't think you can like have it and then like go play with it. I don't think. I think you can have
You
one.
can't
but
domesticate a ram.
I would not try to domesticate a ram. I don't think that would go well. No.
They're not that big though, right? They're like the size of a goat.
I think they're pretty big. they're pretty
Oh, they're
big,
pretty
and I
big?
think they would hurt.
They're
I think they would hurt you if they tried to run into you. I think they're pretty
I
fast
don't know.
and pretty
I think I could take a
strong.
ram.
And
I think I could take a ram.
I don't think
they
you
got
could take a
skinny
ram.
legs. They got skinny legs.
you
the
could
rams.
you're gonna slide tackle them. You're gonna slide tackle the ram.
Let me Google a ram.
I don't think you could. You think you could beat up a ram?
I mean,
I don't think.
I'm
you
not
could beat
saying
up a
I
ram.
can't take a ram. Hold on. Let me see. Let me take a look at the ram first. Let me see.
Look up like American
I
Ram
didn't know-
because you're not gonna get Ram trucks. If you just look up Ram, you'll probably get Ram trucks or whatever.
I know
I-
what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm not gonna pull up a pickup truck and be like, yeah. All right, let's see. Yeah, I pulled up all pickup truck. Ram animal. Let's see. Oh wait, they're big.
They're gonna fuck you up. Yeah, you're out of your mind.
I can't beat up a ram. Look at the size of that thing.
I know you might be able to
Yo.
beat up like I think even the women Rams would fuck you up with their horns.
Some of these rams are absolute units. Look at the
That's what I'm
muscle on
telling you,
these
man. They're
guys.
fucking monsters. Yeah.
See, I was thinking they were like goats with horns.
No, they're
You know, like
bigger.
little
Yeah,
goats.
they're bigger. They're bigger.
With the bang, like that gimmick.
you might be able to
But
beat
they-
up a goat with enough tenacity. You might be able to beat up a goat. but
Listen. If my life was on the line, I could kill a goat with my bare hands.
I don't think I don't think you're
fully
killing a
believe
bighorn sheep or a ram or
a
whatever.
ram. The rams I'm looking at right now, there ain't a chance in hell. And you can't keep this as a pet. This thing will ram right through my fucking picket fence in the back
Yep.
here. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna he's not gonna hang out in the yard. He's gonna be like, what the fuck else is going on in College Station? I'm gonna go look around, you know? Yeah, these things are beasts. Look at the muscle
I
definition. on
know.
some of these
I've been
guys.
near some. Yeah, they're big boys. They're taller than
You
you
know
think,
why?
too.
They're
taller
climbing
than
up
you
fucking
think.
mountains and shit. They're tall.
Exactly,
Yeah, they look
yeah.
big.
They're mountain climbing.
Hold on a second. How big are these motherfuckers? They could be up to 350
That's
pounds.
what I'm telling you, man.
I apologize to the Rams.
You
There's
apologize
no
to
way.
Ram culture. Yeah. Why do you think your favorite football team chose the Rams? That's why they're not the Los Angeles Sheep. That's why they're the Rams,
Holy
man.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is some animal. I got to tell you.
You find a
Now, this
newfound
comes from the-
appreciation. Look what we've done here. A newfound appreciation for the bighorn sheep / the ram.
Yeah, I don't know why I was picturing like a goat or something.
Yeah, you
I'm
were
like, as long
picturing
as I
a
can
goat. You were
avoid those-
picturing like a Nubian goat or whatever, which are those little, the little tiny, like the petting zoo goats. You're thinking of a Nubian goat, like the little
Yes.
petting zoo goat, and you could
and
probably
they just happen to have the curly horns.
Yeah, some of
And
them
I'm
have
like,
the horns. Yeah, and you're thinking I could beat that thing up, and I disagree. I don't
If I
think you
had to,
could,
yeah.
but if you had to, maybe.
A goat? Come on, you can't defend yourself against a goat if you really had
Nubian
to.
goat, I
One
think
goat,
that thing will fuck you up. I think that thing's pretty strong.
like a petting zoo goat. You
Well, if
couldn't
it's like a
handle that?
fully domesticated petting zoo goat, I think you could probably. Because then you would just have to pretend to put a coin in the thing, and then it would just, they're dumb. You know what I mean?
No, I'm saying like even if a petting zoo goat was angry, right, at you, and you had to defend yourself against it, I think you could successfully defend yourself against a petting zoo
I think you
goat.
probably could. Yeah.
I think you're giving a petting zoo goat way too much credit.
I guess.
There-
I thought it's not a wild goat; it's a petting zoo goat. We're declaring it.
Well,
Like-
what the fuck's the difference? I drive down my street and all these fucking farmers have goats.
I think those goats are a little stronger than like because the petting zoo goat has been completely demoralized. Like its life depends on a child putting a quarter in the fucking thing and getting the feed in a cup and then bringing the cup over to feed it. You know what I mean? Or you like
Yeah,
wiggle grass at it and it's like, fuck, finally, stupid grass. Like that's where that goat is. I think a shoot goat, like an actual goat in the wild, I think is going to be a little bit better at fighting than the petting zoo goat would be. Because that's a working goat.
Well, I mean, they don't know taekwondo, so it's like,
It's true.
what are they gonna do? Do they have powerful jaws? Can they bite?
Oh, they can bite. Oh, yeah.
All right, I don't know.
Back kick. You got to watch out for that back leg too. They can kick you too, like a horse. They can kick you real hard.
Do you think you could take down a goat and put it in like a rear naked choke and incapacitate it if you really had to?
If my life depended on it, or
yeah, like you're defending someone you love.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. I think I could take a goat. I'm fairly confident I could take a goat.
Could not take a ram though. You were updating your list.
A ram. There's no fucking way. Now that I take a look at a ram, there aren't many fucking living things that could take one of these motherfuckers. I mean, this goat is jacked. I mean, this ram is jacked. I mean, some of these pictures, it's like, holy shit.
They're bigger than
I really underestimated.
I saw one in Colorado in the wild. We were like driving and one came up to my car and I was like, motherfucker, look at this monster here. Jesus Christ, look at this thing. He's a beast. You gotta be.
Yeah, they're, I gotta be honest. I don't know if I've ever seen a ram, like even at a zoo. I don't.
Yeah,
you
probably haven't. Yeah, you probably haven't.
They don't really keep rams at the zoo.
Nah, for the reasons we've laid out. Yeah, for the reasons we've laid out, I think it's probably difficult. So
$350. I mean, if they can get a rhino and shit like that, why can't they get a fucking,
that's true. That's true.
Right? Because a rhino don't fuck around. And they got bears at the zoo. Like how to, they're not coming quietly. It's like, so, I mean, but it's bizarre that I don't think I've ever seen a ram at the zoo, despite seeing all these other zoos are fucking bullshit anyway. Half the time I go to the zoo, all the interesting animals aren't in the fucking thing. It's like, oh, where is he? I don't know. He's in the fucking cave or something. And then you can't even see.
Right. The giraffe is gone. Like, we don't know. He's sleeping. Or
something. Like I want to see bears and I want to see fucking lions with the mane and all that shit, and it's like half the time the most interesting animals aren't around. You know what they have at every zoo in fucking abundance? Those little mini fake kangaroos. Those what do you call them? They're not actual kangaroos. They're the things that kids think are kangaroos. So zoos just heavily populate themselves with them.
Thinking of I know what you're thinking of.
You know the things I'm talking about?
Yeah. What the hell are those guys called? Wallabies? Are you thinking of wallabies?
Whatever they are, but they're it's like you got plenty of those. The other thing zoos like
we have a lot of shoot kangaroos. We have a lot of kangaroos at my zoo. I don't know, man. There's a bunch of kangaroos.
Like real kangaroos.
Yeah. Maybe they're wallabies, and I don't know.
No, like a shoot kangaroo is like 6'5". It's got abs.
No, these things are monsters. Yeah, these are all shoot kangaroos.
All right, you get real. That's good then. You've got real kangaroos, but a lot of these zoos they have like the little mini fake kangaroos.
Yeah.
It's like kids pop for that, but I'm like, and the other thing they have is like all those variations of gazelles and fucking.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm tired of like I've seen enough.
They're just fancy horses. They're just horses with stripes. Yeah,
How many of these things can I look at? I want rhinos. I want bears.
Gazelles. Yeah. Those are just off. The gazelles are just like dollar store. I guess they're better than dollar store, but they're essentially just like deer. You know what I mean? They're deer with cool.
Yeah, deer. They're fucking deer.
They're just deer.
They're skinny deers is what they are. I don't. But they load the fucking zoo up with that shit. It's oftentimes like I want gorillas and fucking orangutans.
Yeah.
That's the shit that I want to see. You
gotta come to Chicago, man. We got some heavy hitters at the Brookfield Zoo. I'll tell you that.
Like legitimate gorillas.
Oh yeah.
Like silvergrass.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the shit I want to see.
Oh yeah. Brookfield Zoo, baby. Come on.
You got rhinos out there?
Oh hell yeah, we got rhinos.
I got the Waco Zoo's got rhinos. I like the rhino down there. But the other shit, like it doesn't come out, like they're hiding, like they're all the good shit's always like not there. It makes you think, do they even really have it? Is there really even a fucking lion in that cave that they claim the lion is hiding?
Probably not, yeah.
Because he's never out, Yeah, and then the aquarium part, you get plenty of penguins. You got more penguins than you could ever.
We got a lot of
at.
penguins. Yeah, we got a lot of penguins.
A lot of fucking penguins. I'm so tired of looking at penguins. I like a good seal exhibit because I like when the seals get sassy and start spanking the water with their tail.
Yeah.
You ever see that gimmick?
They start doing the yeah.
TLB said the funniest thing once when the seal was spanking the water. I can't repeat it though, but you could imagine where she went with it. But it like, I love when they like fucking spank the water with the fucking tail. They try to splash you because they're fucking with you because they're getting looked at all day.
Yeah.
It's I like a good seal exhibit. You don't see a walrus very often with the fucking Andy Reid mustache.
Yeah,
and
too big.
tusks.
Too big, I think.
You don't see those very often. I'd like to see. I don't know if I've ever seen a walrus.
Let me try to see if if the I don't want to because they were working on the gorilla exhibit at the Brookfield Zoo. I want to make sure it is back. Oh no, we're good. Yeah, we're so if you want to come on, we got plenty. New one just came a year or so ago. A lot of gorillas, a lot of big gorillas at
Like
at
real
Brookfield Zoo.
gorillas.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what you get plenty of? Those tree monkeys.
The
with
spider
long
monkeys.
tails that
Yeah, spider monkeys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they're fun, but I want the big apes.
yeah.
I
You want the big ass?
what I want.
Yeah. We got them.
Yeah.
So come on over,
Yeah.
Brookfield Zoo.
That's what I want to see, and I don't get that very often. All right,
Joe
so
Koff.
that's the Joe Koff. That's Joe Koff, everybody. Joe Koff.
Oh my God! What a way to memorialize Joe Koff, who also, by the way, was instrumental in the creation of AEW because he allowed All In to happen with his contracted talent and offered up production and all that sort of stuff. People thought he was like a mark or whatever. Oh, you're letting these guys run this shit or whatever. But at this point he didn't really care. And I think he realized the writing was on the wall with Ring of Honor largely. So for the most part, whatever. Yeah. Do you guys want to run a show? Knock yourself out. We'll do it. But played a big part, obviously, in All In being the success it was, and then obviously the creation of AEW. So leaves a legacy though of a guy who saved Ring of Honor twice, and Ring of Honor still alive, thanks in large part to Joe Koff, who passed away at the age of 73 from cancer. I don't know if a whole lot of people knew that he had cancer. Mike Johnson said that he kind of kept it pretty on low and sort of wasn't, down in the dumps about it, just saying, hey, I lived a lot of life. I lived a great life. So whatever, whatever happens, happens. And it's a great way to think about life. I don't know if I'll be the same when that time comes for me, but good for him. Joe Koff.
You'll be anxious about something.
Of course. Yeah. I'm anxious now thinking about the time when that might come. You know what I mean? It's not coming, but thinking about the possibility of it coming definitely makes me anxious.
Going on the death rattle.
Oh, I know. I don't want to get. Yeah, that's where Joe gets anxious. You are never anxious about anything except that part. So
I wake up in the night screaming. I'm thinking about eternal nothingness. I can't deal with it, man. But it's got dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, Ash Jenkum. Let's get things back on the right track. Ash Jenkum in the No Dopes chat room says, My girlfriend is listening in the periphery. First off, don't do that to her, please. Put on headphones. Do not let other people in the world hear this thing. My girlfriend is listening to the periphery and said, quote, he got way into the word spank and followed it up with, wait, is that the one with the spreader bar?
Well,
guilty as charged.
In fact, it is.
Guilty as charged. Yeah.
In fact, it is. Yeah. Those seals spank that fucking water.
They do. They do some good spanking out there. All right. NXT on the CW. So we've been following this story a lot since obviously NXT is moving to the CW from USA Network. We were trying to look at how viewership and ratings numbers would look with the move to broadcast. Well, this week, the first NXT show without any heavily advertised main roster talent. Now, it's kind of interesting. I saw a bunch of places say NXT drops to lowest rating without main roster, emphasis or main roster talent or whatever. That is not true because my man, Main Event Jey Uso, was there. He was yeeting with Trick Williams. So I don't know why they're saying no main event or main roster talent was on NXT because they absolutely were. But unfortunately, Main Event Jey yeeting with Trick Williams did not help the rating. It did not do well this week on the CW. 639,000 was the overall viewers. 0.18 in the 18 to 49. That is down 27% in total viewers week over week, and down 25% week over week in the 18 to 49. So just to kind of give you an idea the where the NXT on CW was. 895,000 was the first episode. That was the CM Punk episode, the debut on the CW. They came back the next week with another really good rating, I thought. The 874, and that was for the Randy Orton, Javon Evans, and that sort of stuff. Didn't do well in the box office, but ratings-wise did hold pretty steady at 874,000. But now we drop all the way here on I should note the demo numbers, too. Demo number on October 1st, the debut, 0.26. Demo number on the following week, 0.24. And as you can see now, this week, 639,000 and a 0.18 in the demo. So is that tough competition with the MLB playoffs? Is that tough competition with other stuff? Or is this maybe where the CW NXT thing is going to settle now that it's like, okay, Punk's gone, Randy Orton's gone, all these guys are gone. Now here's the kind of what NXT is going to be. Do you think this is where they sit, or do you think they tend to do a little bit better moving forward?
Well, I mean, obviously the Yankee Indian game was on that night, head to head.
Guardians,
so
sir. They're Guardians,
Oh,
sir.
God damn it!
You'll get it. You'll get it eventually. It's been really tough for me too.
That and the San Diego Chargers. I just can't stop.
Division rival for me. It's been really hard to say. I finally kind of got there recently, but it's tough. It's not easy.
So anyway, yeah, that game obviously had an effect, but I think that this is where they live now. This is a combination of starting off with a lot of hype on the new network. We knew that those numbers were artificially high. Everybody understood that. Shows always start off a little higher, sometimes significantly higher than where they settle at. And it takes between 3 and 6 weeks to identify the real number. Now, was this one a little lower than it would have been because of the Yankee game? Yeah, maybe. But I think that ultimately this is where this show is going to live, which is not all that much different from where they were living on USA, based on the fact that, they weren't doing 1.5 million the first 2 weeks. They were doing around 800, 900,000. So you're like, okay, they're probably going to settle somewhere around 600 or 700,000, which is, maybe they'll settle a smidge higher than where they were on USA. But yeah, these are the kind of numbers that I would expect for the NXT show moving forward.
I did want to make a quick correction. Main event Jey Uso yeeted with Trick Williams last week, not this week. So this week did literally have no main roster talent. But it was a hell of a show they brought out there. You had Stephanie Vakir versus Ren Sinclair. So the debut of Stephanie Vakir, 5 minutes. Yeah. She got the win. Lexis King.
But she's not a TV draw or anything like that.
Lexis King defeated Oro Mensah. Okay. Nikita Lyons defeated Lola Vice in a match. They probably should have built that one up for a lot longer, too. That's a match of large posteriors. I would have built that one up for weeks, right? Throw it away on a throwaway NXT. Can't do that. Ridge Holland defeated Riley Osborne. Brooks Jensen defeated Ashante the Adonis. And then your main event was Ethan Page defeating Javon Evans and Wesley to become the number one contender for the NXT title in a triple threat match.
Great. Yeah. So
it's
posterior. I mean, why don't you just bust out Fanny?
Fanny. Two large Fanny women with two large fannies. Tookuses.
Yeah. Two tookuses.
Posterior. That's the least sexy. Is that the least sexy way to describe a butt? The posterior.
God, you don't say that in the bedroom, dude.
No.
Nurse.
Oh, hey, nurse, let me see that posterior.
Nurse, touch my posterior, please. Put the gimmick in my posterior. You're not saying posterior, are you? I mean,
I am not.
You can't. Yeah, all right. Because did you see the Shannon Sharp leaked Instagram live?
No, why would I watch that?
Oh, I watched the whole thing. Me and TLB, we enjoyed it greatly.
Why would I watch that?
He is funny. It was funny. You couldn't see anything. It was just like you heard him going at it, And at one point in the video, he's like, touch my ass with that Shannon Sharp voice.
Right, in Shannon Sharp voice, yeah.
Yeah, touch my ass. Great stuff. And then you could hear him like really laying the pipe on her too.
Good for Shannon. What did Sterling?
TLD said it. She said it sounded like some impressive fucking. So
good for him. What did Sterling? Has Sterling had a sex tape out there or no? What happens? What's Sterling? Nobody hears about. What does Sterling do these days? What?
He's just nursing that injured neck, I guess. I don't know. Remember he had that thing on his helmet that connected to his shoulder pads. That little fucking band because his neck.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know what was going
Sterling
on with
Sharp.
him. But posterior. I mean. Couldn't you at least said dumper or something?
Rump.
Posterior.
Rump.
I like dumper. Dumper is one that I like.
It's a good one.
I'll throw that one out there. That's the one I say around the wife too. I'm like, oh, look at that girl's dumper. And it's and then I get like the slap on the shoulder. The gimmick.
Yeah. Wagon.
But
Wagon's a good one.
Wagon's all right.
I'm pro Wagon. Wagon's good. Wagon's a good one.
Wagon. I like Wagon.
Dan Snyder also had Wagon. Good for him.
Oh, they're sharing in the chat. That can't be good if they're sharing in the chat.
Yeah, dumper, rump, wagon. Wagon's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing's posterior. What'd you say?
Posterior. A battle of two large posteriors.
Derriere?
Yeah.
How about Derriere?
See, Derriere's at least got a little bit of like at one point, Derriere. At no point was posterior used in a sexy way. Like Derriere at one point in like 1945, you could say, hey, come here, Toots. Let me see that derriere. You know what I mean? And that would work.
Right, derriere. Yeah,
it would work.
No,
But it won't work anymore. You can't say derriere now. But at one point, derriere.
You can. You could say whatever you want.
I guess you could.
But
I don't know if it's gonna go the way you want it to go.
It's not a sexy word at all.
Derriere.
Posterior, derriere, fanny.
Fanny.
None of these are sexy words. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. There's TLB right on cue.
What does she say? What does she say about derriere or fanny?
Well, she's skedaddled out of here. Well, right now she's she's this is not a okay. All right. Yes, I see. This is not a horny podcast, please. She got out of bed to give me that Coke Z, so you can only imagine.
All right,
good
for you. Yeah, good for you.
She had to tease me a bit with the fanny.
Well, too bad. You got to do 2.5 hours more of this bullshit. Then you can go there if you want.
Dive right in, face first. Right?
But we got to talk about Royal Quest. Royal Quest isn't going to talk about itself, Joe. So you got to stay here. Yeah. But do not worry, Joe. Don't worry. Next week on NXT, Cole Custer will be there. Cole Custer will be there. Do you know who Cole Custer is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm a professional wrestling broadcaster.
Who's Cole Custer?
I'm not familiar with Cole Custer, Rich. I got to be honest. You caught me out there.
I got you.
You got me in 4K, as the kids say.
I got you in 4K. Cole Custer.
Did they say 8K? Did they say 8K or 4? They say 4K, right?
By the way, I got a new cable box that has 4K in it. Nice, good stuff. For the 3 games they show in 4K. But I made sure.
What? Huh?
I got a new cable box and it does 4K now.
Oh, well, you have 4K capabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will now join me in being frustrated on how little sports is broadcast.
It said, I went to the little guy and it was like live sporting in 4K, and I was like, oh baby, here we go. And it's like, all right, this baseball game right now that's on, then next week's game of the same series, and then this Arsenal football match in 2 weeks will be in 4K. And I'm like, what? Like, no football.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, these are the 4
really
games you're going to give me in 4K. And it was beautiful. I put it on and I was like, fuck, this is incredible. And I was like,
it's great. Yeah.
I guess I'll watch this next week when another baseball game is in 4K. Great. Love it.
I think Fox has the World Series, though. So that's
okay. All right.
That's good. Fox, they do a lot of their college football. ESPN does some college football, but not all. And that's pretty much it. There's like shockingly little NBA, NFL.
Yeah, very disappointed.
In 4K. It's crazy. There's the one the English Premier League games that are on Sunday mornings before the NFL starts. Those are in 4K sometimes.
Yeah, that's the one that it was. It was like some Arsenal versus whoever the fuck is in 4K, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. Like, I want to watch stuff in 4K because obviously I now have the capabilities, but it's like, fuck, I'm not waking up to watch Arsenal in 4K. Get out of here.
I put it on just because of it's in 4K, and I just say, hey, look, it's in 4K. But then
right.
I don't pay attention because it's soccer. I couldn't care less. And as Dan Greenspan points out, technically it's upscaled 1080p. It's not even real 4K.
Yeah, well,
it still you get.
It looks better to me. All right, God damn it, it looks pretty good on my big ass TV.
Well, it does look great. It's a massive improvement from the standard 1080p. But technically, yes, it's upscaled 1080. Thanks, Dan Greenspan, for just
taking the fun out
of
4K, taking the fun out of the 4 sporting events in the next 2 months that are going to be in 4K. But yeah, Cole Custer is an Xfinity driver. He's not Cole Carter of AEW fame. You might remember Cole Carter.
Oh, so you fooled me.
I fooled you. I pulled the wool over your eyes, Joe.
I've been bamboozled.
You've been bamboozled. You've been had. But
you're a charlatan, Rich Craig.
I am indeed a charlatan. But it does lead me to a great idea that came from the mind of one Griffin Peltier and was indeed helped by Sean Cedar, who is in the note of chatting right now. Because, Joe, we're going to play a little game here. Now, you can't hear this music, but the fans and the listeners at home can. We are going to play, am I an Xfinity racing driver or am I an NXT superstar? You ready to play?
Oh, God. Okay.
All right. So now you are nothing if not a huge you mentioned the people from Dover earlier, the people from, what was it, Southern Delaware or whatever. Your NASCAR
Lower,
fans?
slower Delaware.
Those are your people. So you'll know all these Xfinity drivers. You'll know all these Xfinity drivers. You'll know all them, and you love NXT. So you'll know all the you'll know the Xfinity racers, and you'll know all the NXT superstars, right? So you ready to play?
Okay. Let's play it.
All right. So if I
We
was to
have
say
music?
Oro Mensa, I got music. There's music in the background. You can't hear it, but it's playing in the background. So if I said Oro
Is it
Mensa,
the match game music?
it is Family Feud. It is a classic Family Feud song.
Okay, Family Feud.
So
All
that,
right,
that's your gimmick. The match game is your gimmick. So I don't see
I
that
like
one.
match game.
Well, that's your gimmick. I don't want to steal your gimmick. This is my gimmick. All right.
okay.
I have 24 names here. I think we can get through these pretty quick.
Holy shit! What?
To
Jeez.
light on topics. You want to talk about Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, or you want me to give you 24 names? All right.
24.
Well, look.
Best of 24. What happens if I get 12? We have a tiebreaker.
I have a
25th.
tiebreaker. I do indeed have a tiebreaker.
Oh my
just in
god.
thought. Okay.
Okay. Well, this sounds tedious. Let's get started.
I think it's gonna be all right.
Jeez,
It's a lot.
24 names.
Well,
My
Griffin
God.
sent me 12, and then Sean sent me 12, and I was like, "Fuck, I guess we're gonna do 24 then." All right. So if I said Oro Mensa, you would obviously say NXT Superstar. So
NXT
if I said
yeah, for sure.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., you would say, I don't know, race driver, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
probably, yes.
sometimes those things. He's kind of
I think
retired
he
now, but
retired.
he's retired. But you know, I was trying to come up with. I'm trying to think of. If I said Dick Trickle, I'm trying to think of how many NASCAR guys do you know?
Probably more than I let on.
Okay.
because-
Like if I said Jeff Gordon, you know Jeff Gordon, you know Dale Earnhardt.
Of course, listen. I know the Rainbow Warrior.
If I said Matt Kenseth, does that name register with you at all?
I know Matt Kenseth.
Okay,
yeah.
so
But
your
here's the
knowledge
thing,
is pretty good.
Here's the thing. I only know these guys because of leaving Sports Center on a loop
Got it. Okay.
throughout the entire decade of the 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be caught dead watching a NASCAR race.
Right, but you kept it on, so you knew your Matt Kenseth, your Jimmy Johnsons, your Greg Biffles. You know Greg Biffle, if I were to say Greg Biffle. Okay,
I might not
we
know
found
Greg
the line.
Biffle.
We found the line.
I
It's Greg Biffle. That's
I
fine.
might not know Greg Biffle.
That's okay. We found the line. That's good. All right. We'll start with BJ Ray. BJ Ray, Joe. NXT
BJ
Superstar
Ray.
or Xfinity driver?
I'm going to say that's a race car driver.
You would be incorrect.
Oh,
that is an
God,
NXT
awful stuff.
Superstar, BJ Ray. So, all right, that's fine. Plenty of time. AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger.
That is without question. Not only is this man a race car driver, he's got a lip full of chew right this second. He's got a fat wife. I mean, this guy's a race car driver.
Oh, yeah. I think you're wrong. You're right. I think you're wrong about AJ Allmendinger's life. I don't think he is a dipping man. He's probably married to just a beautiful blonde woman from the South. So
Bullshit. He's
I
got
think
an
you're
ugly
wrong.
dog. The whole fucking
wrong
thing.
about AJ Allmendinger. I'm gonna look up. We'll have Sean Cedor. He'll know if AJ Allmendinger has a hot wife or not. Chip Danning. Chip Danning.
Chip Danning. Now, you could be trying to fool me because if you hear the name Chip, you're immediately thinking some backwards hillbilly who drives who's on team fucking Chevy or something. But I think it's you're trying to double fool me, so I'm gonna go with race car driver.
No, that is an NXT referee. NXT referee. I should note that referees and commentators are also included.
That's fine. That's
in
no, I
this
have no
game.
problem with that.
We were told in the NoDope chat room that AJ Allmendinger is married to Miss North Carolina. So,
Well, I mean, that's no guarantee she's hot. It's North
looking,
Carolina.
She's exactly like I said, just a generically hot blonde woman. So you were wrong. AJ Allmendinger has a hot wife.
I apologize to AJ Allmendinger, but he probably still has some hound dog. Or
He
something.
probably does have a hound. He probably does have a coon hound or something at his house. Dion Lennox.
All right, now there was once a Lennox McEnroe, which was of course Big Daddy Yum Yum,
Correct.
who was once part of the WWE system. Byron Wilcott, who I believe is now canceled. Rich, I believe.
Is Big Daddy Yum Yum canceled?
I think Speaking Out got him.
Yeah, well.
I think Speaking Out got him.
Damn.
You know, happens to the worst.
If
of them.
Big Daddy Yum Yum can't survive, then who can?
Then-
Unbelievable.
Then who can? So I don't know is it too soon to recycle the Lennox part of the name? That was a different era. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that's an NXT superstar.
That is indeed an NXT superstar. Congratulations. You are back on the board here.
Go.
All right. Leland Honeyman.
All right. That one's so silly that you want me to say NXT superstar. So I'm going to say Leland Honeyman is a very middling race car driver who, much like Danica Patrick, has never won a race.
Leland Honeyman is indeed an Xfinity driver. That one, I don't even know who that guy is.
And I bet he stinks.
I don't know where
I
Sean
bet he
Cedar
stinks,
got that guy from, but
Yeah.
Leland Honeyman. There you go. All right.
He's probably one of those guys that drives the NASCAR trucks too. Like,
Does he
that
do?
awful
Yeah, let's
circuit,
see if he does
like,
trucks. He does the Camping World. Oh, he's done a couple races in the Camping World Truck Series.
see?
He's more of
a scrub.
He's an
I bet
ARCA
that guy's
guy.
a
He does
scrub.
ARCA too. That's kind of the scrub
Yeah, he's
era.
a
of,
scrub. He's
yeah.
a minor league. Yeah, listen, he's not a major league driver. He's a scrub. He'll never trade paint with with
Greg Biffle.
with who am I trying to think? Richard Petty. He'll
Richard
never
Petty,
trade
the
paint with
King? No,
Richard
he'll not
Petty.
be traded with the King,
No.
Richard Petty, anytime soon. Or Kyle Petty, for that matter. Parker Retzlaff. Parker Retzlaff.
Driver.
Ding, ding, ding. You were doing well here. I think you're up 4-2 on the drivers.
And there's only like 18 to
There's
go.
only 18
So
more to go. You've got plenty of time to get ahead of the game here. Justin Allgaier. We'll go a little quicker here. Driver, indeed. You are killing it here. Anthony Alfredo. Now, is he a member of Tony D'Angelo's crew, or is he an
That's a
Xfinity
good
driver?
point. You know, there aren't a lot of Italian car drivers because
Now, how do you know Anthony Alfredo is Italian? You don't know anything about Anthony Alfredo.
I don't know. We tend to get into like coaching college basketball and things like that. We don't really get into race car driving. I'm going to say that's an NXT superstar.
You would be incorrect. Anthony Alfredo is indeed an Xfinity driver. He's from Ridgefield, Connecticut. So you let me know if that man is Italian or not. I don't know.
He might be Italian if he's from Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Okay.
And if he is, I have to say I'm very disappointed in him.
This is the path he's chosen for his life.
Yeah, well, what's he doing? I mean, come on. Get it together, Alfredo.
Felix Fernandez.
The wokes aren't going to like this one, Rick, but I don't
But
think
you're
that the
about to
Hispanics...
You're about to say, I knew exactly. I was going to lead off with,
Yeah,
from an Italian to a Hispanic man, Felix Fernandez, but go for it. You're there. You're already there.
I don't think the Hispanics are into NASCAR, so I'm going to go with NXT superstar.
You would be wrong, sir. That man is actually, you're right. He's sorry. You're wrong and you're right. You're right that he is an NXT superstar, so ding, ding, ding. But you are wrong because Daniel Suarez, one of the top NASCAR drivers, is a man of Mexican descent. So you're wrong. But, all right. Cutler James.
That's got to be an NXT superstar.
Indeed. Correct. He is.
That Cutler James is the most NXT
that's so
name
NXT.
that has ever NXT'd. So, yeah.
Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst.
Well, I would assume that most of these drivers have some form of the herp, growing up in fucking Mississippi or wherever the fuck. So Riley Herbst, just on that alone. Now, this could be a female NXT superstar, but here's the thing. They don't pick last names that are difficult to pronounce. So I'm going to go with driver.
You would be correct. He's from Las Vegas, by the way. So you're wrong on the Mississippi part, but you might still have the clap. I don't know anything about that. David Starr. This is one that Sean Cena was like, I don't know if I should use this one, but it's a gimme. It's an over. So David Starr, did they sign? I mean, they have what's his face? They have fucking Jordan Devlin. They had JD McDonough. Did they try to sneak David Starr in?
That's true.
To
That's
the PC.
True. They would change his name, though, I think.
They probably would.
So
they probably would.
I'm going to have to say that it's a driver, for sure.
You are correct. Yeah, that was an easy one for you there. All right. Drake Morax. Morax? I don't know how to pronounce this fucking thing. Drake Morax.
All right. Well, again, if you're having difficulty pronouncing, I've got to go with driver.
Incorrect. It's actually an NXT superstar. How would you pronounce this? Morreaux. Moreau? Like, who the fuck is this?
Sounds like Moreau.
Yeah, is it
Moreau.
Drake Moreau?
Yeah, it sounds like Moreau.
Oh, whatever. Who cares? Hank Walker.
Hank the Tank. That is not only an NXT superstar, but he is one of the stars of myself and Griffin Peltier's favorite show, NXT Level Up.
Now, I think this is the guy. If you want to talk to Hank the Tank, I think I got a connection to... Is it Hank or maybe it's Tank? I have a connection to one of the guys.
Well, yeah, we're talking about Tank Ledger is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I have a direct connection to Tank Ledger if you need to...
I think that's who I was talking about, too, because I don't know who the fuck is Hank Walker. I think I may have also gotten confused there.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
okay. No, I know people that know Tank Ledger. So if you need to get Tank Ledger on a show, maybe we'll bring him onto the flagship one of these days.
yeah, Hank Walker is either an NXT superstar or
I think he's one half of
guitarist.
Tank in the Tank. I think he's one half of Hank in the Tank.
Or he's a backup guitarist for Johnny Cash, who died in 1961 in a alcohol-related driving accident. That's what Hank Walker
Right.
is. That's
Blake Howard, almost done here.
NXT superstar.
NXT superstar, indeed. You are crushing this game. You're 11
Who
to
the
4.
fuck are these people? Who is Blake Howard?
Blake Howard is a commentator on NXT. I believe he's the
okay.
Level Up guy. Isn't he the Level Up commentator?
Oh,
I think you're a fake Level Up fan.
I'm a fake
No, he's
fanboy
maybe he does main event. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know what Blake Howard does, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't watch Level Up, so I can't say. Jasper Troy. Oh,
God, this is hard because
That's a good one.
when your name is Jasper, you almost have to be a NASCAR driver, right? Or at least like a dirt track driver, or like you do
Motocross.
demolition derbies or something.
Motocross,
you're doing
yeah.
something
With an engine.
hillbilly.
Something with an
Something-
engine, for sure.
Yeah, maybe drag racing. Maybe you're doing the NHRA drag racing or something. I think those are the right
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah, John Force.
Um,
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, where they just hit the fucking gas. It's just they race for like a quarter mile and it takes like 3.8 seconds or something like that. Don't they call those the funny cars? Or
There
is that something different?
there is funny cars. Funny cars are a part of the drag racing circuit. Funny cars are the big guys, the big fat ones that you probably. But there's like roadsters and a bunch of others ones. But yeah, the big ones are called the funny cars. Yes.
Yeah, they have like the countdown with the red and then the green, and then you can have a false start with those. Like you leave early.
By the way, the worst sporting event to go to live. I'm sorry, horrible.
It's awful, huh?
It's awful. So you sit there. It takes like 45 minutes for them to get the cars all ready. They get them up to the line. Beep, beep, burn. And then you're, wah! Then they drive for 4 seconds and it's over. And you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that was really loud and annoying. And then you
and
wait.
you probably can't even see who's winning.
No idea. It's just
No
like,
clue.
they both drive off and you're like, I don't know. And they're like, that guy won. You're like, okay, cool. Then you wait 25 more minutes for them to load up another car. It's like, what am I doing here? This is so stupid.
Sounds awful.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I think instead of the beep, 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 like what they should have is a teenage girl in a poodle skirt with a handkerchief standing between the cars.
And a cliff on the side. Yeah.
And then she drops her hands with the handkerchief, and then you go.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And then the loser has to hand the title of the car to the winner. Like that's now, if they did all that, then it might make it more entertaining, you know? So, this guy, what was this guy? Jasper?
Jasper Troy.
That could easily be an NXT superstar too with a name like Jasper.
Absolutely.
Troy. So I'm going to go with that's way too stereotypical for a driver. So I'm going to say it's an NXT superstar.
You would be correct. Jasper Troy is an NXT superstar. Shiloh Hill.
Wrestler.
You are correct. Okay, so I think
That one sounds familiar.
Yeah, you're 13. You're 13 and 4 on the yeses, so you're doing remarkably well. There's no way you can lose the game now from here on out. So congratulations to you, Sheldon Creed.
Oh, that's got to be a wrestler.
You'd be incorrect. That is an Xfinity driver. You can watch him on the CW.
Okay.
Sheldon Creed. He's
I
not member.
can, but
not
I
member
won't.
of the Creeds.
I won't, but I can.
Yeah, not a member of the Creed family.
Okay.
Josh Williams.
Pretty generic. Josh Williams. He sounds like a corner for NC State.
That is a very NC State name. Yeah.
It's a very NC State name. Like he plays for the Wolfpack, you know, and he plays corner. Like
And he gets
that's the
drafted.
only
He gets drafted by the
position he
Bills
can play.
too. He definitely gets drafted by the Bills too.
Drafted by the Bills. He plays corner. You know, he for NC State. They go 8-4 and play in the Duke Mayo Bowl. You know, that's Josh Williams. That's his life. I think he's a driver.
You'd be correct. He is. Josh Williams is a driver. Parker Ligerman.
Yeah, they're not. NXT's not giving out a name like that. That's a driver.
That is indeed a driver. Nice job. Cale Dixon.
That's a driver.
No, Cale Dixon's an NXT superstar. We use Cale Dixon every single time. Every time I do an NXT game, whether it's with you or Rich Latta or Andrew Rich, every time we throw in Cale Dixon, and everybody gets it wrong every single time.
Every time. Cale Dixon.
Nico Vance.
Wrestler.
Nico Vance is indeed a wrestler. All right, 2 more to go here.
Yeah.
Cesar Baccarella. Cesar Baccarella.
All right. I'm very tempted to say wrestler. Okay. For my racial profiling reasons earlier. But I feel like Cesar Baccarella, this is a guy who flamed out on like the F1 circuit. He's probably some sassy European, right? But he couldn't cut it. He's tired of the same guy winning every F1 race. So he's like, I'm going to try my hand at this American shit, right? And maybe I can find my niche there. So I'm going to say this guy's a driver.
He is indeed a driver, but I think he's like a muscle guy. He's like a bodybuilder dude. He's a very interesting fellow, this Cesar Baccarella. He looks exactly like we would think Cesar Baccarella looks like. So when you get a chance later, look up Cesar Baccarella and you'll say, yeah, that's what I pictured in my head. But you had him as like a nice, trim, like European F1 driver. He's just like a muscled head dude that's also driving.
I had him as who's the guy who plays Borat?
Sacha Baron Cohen, yeah.
I had him as Sacha Baron Cohen's character from Talladega Nights.
Got it. Okay.
You know, like he comes from some swanky F1 circuit and he thinks he's gonna beat the shit out of whatever
Parker Legerman. Parker Legerman, yeah.
No, the character in Talladega Nights. It was
Ricky
Bobby.
Ricky Bobby.
At the coming to beat Ricky Bobby's ass. A lot of TLB mentions on this show. I will mention again, old time listeners know. She is very attracted to Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights.
It's very bizarre. He's really
not
bizarre.
attracted to Will Ferrell in any other context other than in Talladega Nights.
There's something to be said for that. Yeah, there's something to dig into there.
She can't even explain it. Like, I'm like, why? How? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't even get it.
I think that's her country girl coming out. I think it's her country girl coming out a little bit there.
Maybe. Did I ever show you that shirtless cowboy she used to date that I found the
I think you did.
Like, what the fuck is this?
You couldn't be any different than that guy.
Yeah. I'm like, look at this guy. He's like, he looked like the star of a gay porn set on a ranch or something. Like,
he looked like the guy that they used for the cover art of like a gay novel
of a gay porn that takes place in fucking Texas.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't have been any hotter, this guy. Like,
he was pretty hot. Yeah, he was pretty hot.
This guy was disgustingly hot. Like, he was gay porn hot. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Because it was like in a pile of like her high school stuff. And she's like, oh, that's my ex-boyfriend. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, we went on the road and sang songs. I'm like, I don't want to know anymore. The story's over. The story's
you and Clay.
done.
I don't care anymore about you and Clay and what you guys did on the road. So
I don't exactly.
Right.
There's not one more detail that I'm interested in. Shirtless, cowboy hat, painted on jeans with a giant buckle. You saw it. I'm like,
did he have his thumb in one of the buckles in one of the belt
yes,
buckles?
he had thumbs in both of the fucking buttons. Yeah.
Wow.
And he had, like,
so were you seeing like the top of the there's that one little the region as you start getting into the lower. I don't know what that's called. You know what I'm saying? Like the muscle. You see that little bone there?
The V by the groin. The V.
Yeah.
He wasn't even yoked. He was just beautifully cut. You know what I'm talking about?
Fuck
Like
this
he was
guy.
like,
yeah, fuck this guy.
like the worst. Like I'd rather he be yoked. You know, I'd rather he be like a musclehead, but he wasn't. He was just like ripped. The guy was ripped like peak Rick Rude. I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Right.
I'm like,
It's like
what
a
is
Von
this
Erich.
shit?
Yeah, she's dating a Von Erich for God's sakes. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I don't know that these names are reminding me of that guy.
There's a lot of people that Texan women would probably date. We'll conclude this here with Austin Green. Austin Green. You do not need the tiebreaker. We're not going to use it. Austin Green. We'll settle it for you. Are you going to be 17-7 or are you going to be 18-6, Joe? Austin Green.
Austin Green sounds like an actor from 90210 who wasn't part of the main
Green,
cast.
Yeah.
You know, like
Green with an E at the end.
Always yes. You gotta have the E at the end. He's the blonde kid who accidentally shoots himself in season 1 with the gun, where they did a very special episode of 90210. And they're like, we lose one of our own, and everyone's like, oh my god, Jason Priestley's leaving the show.
That's one of these dumbass bit characters.
It's like sub character that was in 2 episodes. Who, that's an NXT superstar.
Austin Green is an Xfinity driver, so you will end this
I was
game
already a winner.
17-7. Congratulations. Thank you so much for playing. Hey, light topic week. Had some fun here. Figure out how to fade this music out. I'm not going to fade it. I'm just going to close it. All right, there you go. NXT Superstar or Xfinity driver. Thank you so much to Griffin Peltier and Sean Cedar for the names included there. So, all right, had some fun. And there you go. That's NXT. I don't have anything else to say about NXT or no?
No, yeah, I already broke down the ratings. So
that's it. Tune in next week.
Did you enjoy NXT this week?
You know what?
Nikita Lyons
I watched the posterior match. Yeah, I will say I watched the first 2 weeks of the new NXT on the CW. I did not lock in for this week, and I think I'm good for forever again with NXT. Yeah. I tried. I tried to say, hey, hold on a minute. It's new. It's different. They got a new logo. They're cooking. As per usual, but it's a fucking terrible show. It's atrocious. So
really bad.
And even Julia and Stephanie Vakir is not enough to make me decide I want to start watching that NXT anytime soon here. But all right, let's get to you want to talk about New Japan? We got a lot of New Japan stuff. You want to do that?
Well, I mean, I think it's all we have left. So
well, then we got Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, but we can just shove that into the end. Shove that in at the end. Yeah, you don't care about that, really. We don't have to. King of Pro Wrestling, Joe, last weekend. Yeah. New Japan's King of Pro Wrestling. Main event, obviously the big story here. We have to talk about this. Zack Sabre Jr. defeats Tetsuya Naito to win the IWGP World Heavyweight title. You and I both thought that was the right move. You and I both thought last week that would be the way to go. We really thought on the premise that you can't have him walk into Royal Quest being like, hey, I tried, but that Naito guy's pretty damn good. Sorry, guys. But it also just feels right for the booking. It feels right for a lot of stuff, particularly with the 2 nights of the Dome, that if you're going to take a risk on a guy and give him this big win, this would be the guy to do it. And, so Zack Sabre Jr. defeats Tetsuya Naito to win the title. I thought the match was pretty good, although I'm really, I don't know with Naito, man. It's pretty rough out there these days with Naito, but I would say that these guys did as good of a match as you could possibly do given the circumstances. I thought Zack was really, really good in it. I thought Naito, held his own for sure. But, the final stretch was really good. As you could tell, the fans were starting to anticipate, okay, I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. And then little by little, Zack just kind of got some hope fall, near falls, got some nice little submissions in there, and then eventually got the win and wins the title. But what do you think, first off of the match, and then we'll kind of break down the decision to go with Zack Sabre Jr. as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion?
First, before I break down the match, I want to talk about the business of the show a little bit. So they did 6,211 was the announced attendance for the Ryuguku Kukugan, the Sumo Halls, it's better known. And, this show was on pace to do a really impressive attendance. And then, look, I think it's a decent number, but when you compare it to the other Sumo Hall numbers of recent vintage, it wasn't all that impressive. The G1 final did 8,056. The G1 show the night before with Sabre and Shingo on top did 5,340. So to give you some context, it beat that first G1 show, but got destroyed by the G1 final. Sakura Genesis was in that building with Naito and Yota Tsuji on top this year and did 6,632. The Destruction show in 2023 with Sonata versus Evil did 5,002 fans. The G1 final in 2023 did 8,283, which is the top number of the last 10 shows in Sumo Hall. The G1 show the night before with Naito and Will Ospreay did 6,579. So King of Pro Wrestling came in below that. The All Together show, I'm gonna count that as one of the last 10 shows, did 6,569. Sakura Genesis 2023 with Sonata versus Okada did 6,510. And then you have to go all the way back to October of 2022 for Declaration of Power, which was held in Sumo Hall. Do you remember the main event of October's Declaration of Power?
Declaration of Power? No, I don't.
Jay White defending the title versus Tama Tonga.
Wow. Man.
4,059 fans. So of the last 10 shows in Sumo Hall, This did the 8th best attendance. It beat 8th best attendance. So it beat the first G1 show this year, the block final, and it beat 2023's Destruction show with Sonata and Evil, and all the other shows held. The last 10 shows held in Sumo Hall topped this one. So look, I don't think it was a bad number, but I also don't think it was a pop the cork number. And all of those strong early tickets, they didn't seem to have any kind of significant walk up or anything like that. But based on the early ticket sales, I really thought they were going to, get up in the 7 and maybe even challenge 8,000, but it didn't turn out that way. So just a nice little number, and not the massively positive number that I think we were all hoping for King of Pro Wrestling. As far as the main event match, I thought that it was very smartly worked to protect Naito. Now the final 2 minutes or so is where they finally started taking some big bumps, when they picked up the pace. But other than that, this was kept on the mat. This was kept on the mat, and Sabre's the perfect opponent if you're trying to protect Naito in that way. And I ended up really enjoying the match. I thought it was one of the more enjoyable Tetsuya Naito matches this year.
Did you watch it unspoiled, or did you watch it?
No, I watched it spoiled.
Okay, you watched it spoiled. Yeah, I actually was lucky enough to watch it unspoiled, which I think helped a little bit for me as well, because as I'm watching it, I think I'm pretty sure that Zach's going to win, but you never know. You never know. But I think that he, and they were both doing a really good job in that final stretch of making you. I think that they knew, the crowd all knew. I think everybody knows that we pretty much see that Zach's going to do this, but giving you enough spots in the end and giving you enough kind of teases at the end to make you think. And because Zach's style, you can do that in a very good way. You can put him in this wild ass submission, and you don't know. Oh fuck, Naito could tap out from this wild ass submission. It's very possible he could do that. But then they do the back and forth at the end, and you get Naito doing the 1 count, which I enjoyed. The one defiant, you gotta love a good defiant 1 count there before it all ends. But I thought they got me in the end, and I thought it was a pretty damn good match, given that Naito's limitations, where they're at these days, is a little slow at the beginning, definitely a little slow at the beginning. But once you realize, oh, we're gonna do a match on the mat mostly, then I think you could settle in a little bit more and be like, okay, I see what we're doing here, and that probably helped it a little bit, because I know there was a point where I was a little bit bored a couple minutes in, as I'm like, oh God, we're just gonna roll around here for a little bit. Then I realized, maybe Naito can't really do much other than roll around these days, so that's fine. Let's do that. And it's Zack Sabre Jr. That's the best way to use him, and the best way to utilize what he does best. So it ended up working out pretty good, I think. So I thought it was a good match, and one that definitely if you haven't watched it and you're on the periphery of wrestling, it's an IWGP World Heavyweight Title change, man. You got to watch this match. Got to watch it.
That's good. I think it was a good match too. And New Japan, one of the biggest New Japan shows of the year, King of Pro Wrestling, ends with Hartley Jackson celebrating in the ring, just like we all predicted.
That man is working his way up the ladder, man. Good for him. I'm a Hartley Jackson guy. I like Hartley Jackson.
Working 0-1 shows not that long ago to celebrating in the ring for an IWGP title change. He should have went into business for himself and attacked Sabre from behind.
Yeah, hell yeah. Get something out of that. Yeah, I'm very worried now about the 2025 01 Happy New Year show, because if we don't even have Hartley Jackson on there, I'm a little worried what that show is going to look like. That was one of the constants, at least, was at least Hartley Jackson's going to be there, but fuck. Really.
And I got to tell you, I thought the crowd, really responded well to Sabre's win. He went all up in the crowd afterwards, and it's just like a really good, fun, different moment.
Oh, the post-match was great. He just went into the crowd and just started high-fiving guys, and everybody just stayed. Nobody left. Everybody stayed to high-five the guy. Hey, this guy just won the world title. Let's high-five him. Let's cheer. I mean, they were ready for it. They were definitely ready for it. Yeah. Oh, it was such a shot in the arm. Such a shot in the arm. And that's no offense to Naito, but it was such a shot in the arm to have a completely new guy and a different guy and a guy who's, slowly but surely worked his way up the ladder in this company too.
Yeah.
It's one of those cool stories too, where it's like, oh, you can chart his entire history in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now he's here. He reached the mountaintop. That's really cool. I always like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this feels like a good move for them. I know there's a lot of questions, as to whether, who's he going to headline. I really don't think Sabre's headlining Wrestle Kingdom. I think Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi are headlining Wrestle Kingdom. Maybe I'm working myself into a shoot with that, but the fact they're having those back-to-back nights, it just screams to me that you don't have to headline that show with the IWGP champ.
Right, the back-to-back nights
you
change
can do
everything.
it the next night.
Yeah, you could do January 5th.
Yeah.
It's Kenny Omega versus Zack Sabre Jr. or Okada versus Zack
Or
Sabre
whoever
Jr.
you
Yeah,
pick.
whatever you want to do. You can and you have the AEW inclusion in there for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say that January 4th, I'm looking at January 4th as that's probably still going to be the very traditional New Japan style, main event, whether it be, Naito versus Hiromu or whatever. And then your 5th can be, whatever. You can just put whoever. I don't know. I'm the same way. I don't think that this locks Zack Sabre Jr. into the main event of January 4th. I don't think so.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you could do Sabre and Naito again. But as I said, this is the 8th best attendance in Sumo Hall over the last 10 tries. So it's not like this match did killer business. It did okay business. Now, with Sabre winning the title and people seeing him as a top guy now, the bottom line here is you have a lot of options open, and one of those is not having this title defended on the 4th. You don't have to defend it on the 4th. I know they're doing the gimmick where if he wins, I think he faces Shingo, and if Sonata wins, which he's not going to, he faces Shota Umino.
Correct.
Right? Isn't that the gimmick?
Yeah, exactly.
So look, we all know Sabre is winning, but I think that's them telling you, hey, Shota Umino is at this level now. They're trying to convince the audience Shota Umino is at a championship level now. I disagree with that. I don't think he has championship charisma yet.
I think the crowd agreed with you too in Sumo Hall, because this guy came out and the crowd just went, "No, not this guy." that was what a reaction that was. So if people don't know what they had is Zack Sabre Jr. went in, he was in the ring, he was celebrating a little bit, and then some guys started coming out. And like Shingo Takagi came out and challenged him, and the crowd was like, "Oh, Shingo Takagi versus Zack Sabre Jr. That'll be really good." And then Shota Umino comes out. Sonata came out first, and obviously they're going to have their match at Royal Quest or whatever. Then Shingo came out, and then Shota Umino came out, and when he went through that curtain, this Sumo Hall crowd went boo, and not necessarily in like this is a heel, because he's not a heel. It was the no.
Yeah, we can't have this. Yeah.
Not you. You're not ready for this spot, brother. Not you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and he just doesn't have the necessary.
And Zach had to tell the crowd, slow down. All right, let the guy talk. Because he's trying to talk, and the crowd's just like,
they're trying to shoot an angle. Yeah,
right. And Zach's like, no, let the kid talk. Let the kid talk. Let the kid talk. I was like, oh man, but they could do something. They could do something with this. This is maybe a wake up call. This is maybe a wake-up call.
Naito's push started.
Exactly.
That's how Naito's push started, by getting booed out of Osaka. So, look, Sabre is good, and then he'll face Shingo at Destruction in Bipu or whatever the next. What's the tour ender at the end of Super Junior Tag League?
Power Struggle. Power Struggle.
Yeah, so Power Struggle it's not in Bipu. Where is it?
It is not in Bipu. I believe it is in. I believe this show is going to be in Osaka.
They were
back in.
They were just in Kobe.
Yeah.
So okay. So, the Body Maker. They're going back to the Body Maker.
Yeah. Edion Arena, not in my world. Body Maker Coliseum forever.
That.
Yeah.
Body Maker 1. That's Body Maker 1. Okay. So Sabre will face Shingo there. That'll be awesome, I think. And away we go. So yeah, this is a good change, a needed change. And I think I don't know if they ever go back to Naito. This could be it.
Nah, this is it.
And if this is it, that's okay. Legendary career. We didn't even have Tanahashi on the run sheet. That's a topic.
Oh, I'm going to bring it. We'll bring it up in the midst of the show for sure. I have it in my notes.
On the run sheet. Whoever made the run sheet, fire him. Because,
hey, that guy's done. I'm done with that guy.
Yeah, how do you forget that? But obviously we'll talk Tanahashi. But this could be it for Naito. I think that his body has clearly had it, and this might be where we start to down cycle him a little bit. It's truly time for the new blood to step up. And I don't know that having Naito in the title mix moving forward is the wisest thing. Let these guys sink or swim now. It's time.
Do you want to do the Tanahashi thing now, since we're there?
Sure, you want? Yeah, let's talk about Tanahashi right now.
I did a big write-up at flagshippatreon.com if you guys want to read that. But announced at this show is that Hiroshi Tanahashi is winding down his career, calling it quits on January 1st, 2026. So, or January 4th, 2026 will be his final show and final match. And I believe him when he says that. Maybe he'll pop up once or twice, after that or whatever. But I tend to think it's probably it. But they're kind of going to do, whatever it's going to be over the next year is going to be the end of Tanahashi. So you're going to have last opportunities to see him in a lot of places. They'll do last little spots. But are you surprised that it was as direct and abrupt, where it was just like, all right, no, I'm done. I'm finishing up, and this is the date?
I don't think it's abrupt. I think, it's over a year from now, and they're doing the Cena thing. They're going to milk it and make money off of it, which is the right thing to do. So he's going to have, that's kind of like what AAA is doing with Vampiro. It'll bring him around all these cities. This will be his last time in this city, and it'll be his last time in, working G1 tours, and fuck, they might even put him in the G1 again, right? Who knows? But, and I think it'll work as a business move, as something to help them draw next year. I do think it'll work, just like the Cena thing will work. So, he's obviously a top of the chain all-time legend. He's easily one of the top 5 most important people in the history of New Japan.
Oh God, yeah.
That's probably even conservative. He's probably top 3. Inoki, you have to have number 1, obviously. I'd probably make a lot of people mad if I make the rest of the list, but Tanahashi is up there. I mean, the thing about Tanahashi is, if he isn't as selfless as he is, who knows if New Japan even experiences that golden age that they did, because they needed him to put Okada over. That was a necessary element. And as we know, that led to a boom period, the likes of which they never experienced before, no matter what the old heads tell you. And I'm one of them, and I was there. Okay. No matter what they tell you, that was the most successful financial period in the history of New Japan. Okay. 2012 till pandemic, whatever you want to call it. And that may not have happened if Tanahashi has the ego of a lot of other major stars in pro wrestling, or he didn't like Okada, or whatever the case, because that arc was the primary reason that era took off. And that's no disrespect. Look, Shinsuke Nakamura had a huge hand in that. Tetsuya Naito obviously had a massive hand in that. Okada had a hand in that, but Okada needed Tanahashi to put him over. And Tanahashi's great title reign, as they were digging out of the muck, that long title reign to set all this up, and then his selflessness to participate in that several-year-long arc to make sure that Okada got over as a god, was the key ingredient. Even more important than Nakamura's transformation, even more important than the emergence of Naito, which came a couple of years later and helped extend the golden era that they went through. It's Tanahashi. And in his own right, I mean, setting aside that he was instrumental in getting Okada over, he's Hiroshi Tanahashi, and he led them through the darkest period and kept them afloat. And then, wasn't just a tool to get Okada over, but was a massive star in his own right while he was getting Okada over.
Yeah.
So this is an all-time legend. If you wanted to put him as high as number 2 in terms of the most important people in the history of New Japan, ahead of Muto, ahead of Hashimoto, ahead of Chono, ahead of Okada, ahead of Naito, ahead of anybody you want to name, I'm not sure I'd die on that hill arguing with you. I think that you can't put anyone number 1 except Inoki. That you can't do. You can't go that far. But if you want to put him number 2, I'll back off. I'll accept that without much pushback. We could have the conversation.
Definitely.
So,
yeah, the longevity case is there for sure, because this is a guy who, was wrestling all through the early 2000s during a lot of the Inokiism, peak, and survived it, and came out as the top guy in the company, but came out, as the top guy in a company that was fledgling and really, failing on many levels and falling on the hardest of times or whatever, and saw that through in a lot of ways. And even before the Okada thing happened, the business growth was starting to get a little bit better because of the stabilization that he brought to that company and the stabilization he brought as the top star. And then the Okada thing happens, and you mentioned it there, and I think I put it over so much in the article that I did because it's such smart business, and it's the type of business that so many other wrestlers are too fucking stupid to realize that you're not giving your spot up to this guy. You're creating a dance partner for yourself, and that's what Tanahashi figured out. He said, "Fuck, I've been here for the last 10 years. The last couple years, we got nobody. We had to bring in Kojima to come save this thing as a freelancer, and I need a guy. I need a guy to come in and work with me and main event with me, and I can do it's. So yeah, I'm gonna put this kid over, not because I'm gonna give my spot away to this kid. I'm gonna put this guy over because now I have somebody to main event with. Now I have somebody to do a feud with. Now I have somebody that can be a generational rival. And that's exactly what it was. So it's such a smart thing to do, is to not have that ego and not put, oh, no, that's not going to work for me, brother, type shit that so many other guys, including some of those contemporaries that you mentioned, would have said. Whereas this guy realized, oh, fuck, man, if I put this guy over, I'm still in my prime. I'm not going anywhere. I'm fucking Hiroshi Tanahashi. I'm 1 of 100. I'm 1 of 100. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still the ace. But I get to if I put this guy over, now we have something. Now we can really start cooking here, and I have somebody I can fight for the next decade in big time spots, and that's exactly what he did. So it was such, that move to put over Okada, which we always talk about the ballsy move by Gedo to do it, but also you needed the buy-in from Tanahashi to put that guy over at that time. Which we try to emphasize this a lot to newer fans. That guy at that time was absurd. Okada came in. Back from excursion in TNA where he was nothing. He was laughable. Comes in, has a bad match with Yoshihashi. Comes out at Wrestle Kingdom to challenge. Remember how we said the reaction to Shota Umino? The Okada reaction wasn't boos. It was just like, this guy? What? No. Laughter. Literally laughing at the guy.
Seriously.
There's no way. Yeah. This guy, this fucking geek that just came back and had that horrible match with Yoshihashi, this is the geek that's going to challenge you at New Beginning? Okay, great. They thought it was just a nice little V1 title defense. You know what I mean? Oh, Tanahashi's going to get a nice little title defense over this kid. And he beats him. And that was huge. Huge for getting the confidence in Okada. Huge for shaking, the wrestling world up. Huge for Tanahashi to let this guy beat him and have a rival forever. Huge for Gedo to take that risk. And it paid off. It absolutely paid off over the next decade. New Japan got to such high levels because of Tanahashi's selflessness and not necessarily selflessness. Like, that's the word I use, but he also knew that he could make some money off of it too, and he was right. Very Terry Funk. Terry Funk always said that. Terry Funk throughout every period of Terry Funk's career, he always said, "I want to put guys over because now I have a guy to fight with. Now I have a rival. Yeah. Now I have somebody to make money with."
Just a minor correction, and I know you know this, but it wouldn't have been a V1. That was it was the end of Tanahashi.
Oh, that's right. Right. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
He beat, that was after he beat Minoru Suzuki.
Right. Sorry. Yes. Correct.
Yeah. Because he beat Kojima the year before.
The year before. Correct. Right. He retained his title.
Right. Kojima Tanahashi held it for that whole year.
Yeah, which actually is an important part of the story, and I wrote about that too. Is that was a record-breaking title reign. That was a record-breaking title reign that he let that guy beat him for.
And the plan all along was this guy who's off on excursion. Now, people have to understand, Okada was considered a prospect. I don't want people to lose sight of that. He was always considered a prospect because fucking look at him. He's 6'4", good-looking guy, all the talent in the world. The uncertainty around him was because he was not impressive at all when he returned. That was the uncertainty. It was a weird gimmick. He had purple hair. He didn't look good in the match at Wrestle Kingdom at all. The Rainmaker was a work in progress. It was like a sit-out clothesline. It wasn't even the ripcord clothesline that people know it of today. Go watch that match. The match is a disaster. Yoshihashi showed some heel fire in that match that you never see out of him since. I mean, he was like a different worker himself. But the questions were, okay, this guy's back, but it's weird. The gimmick's weird. He looks weird. His match stunk. But he was considered a prospect internally. The long Tanahashi reign, the plan was it'll help Okada get over if he's the one that ends it. That's the whole idea, So while Tanahashi is rehabbing this belt and having this great title reign, it's all designed for this kid to come back and end it. I'm sure they would have wished Okada came back a little hotter and looked a little better upon his return. But, in a lot of ways, it almost worked out better because he looked so poor upon his return that no one expected him to win in February. And it was even more of a shock that he won in February after how poor he looked at Wrestle Kingdom. And that was one of the very first shows we ever did when Okada beat Tanahashi.
Yep.
One of the very first shows we ever did. And the big topic was how shocking it was and how it sent shockwaves through the pro wrestling world that they made that move, and then very quickly, we realized that New Japan had something cooking. And our conversations, we've told the story a million times, like, Rich, we have to focus hard on New Japan because this is going to pop big and no one else is covering it. And that is how we helped establish our niche, to the point where there's still people today who think we're a New Japan podcast, who don't listen to us and they think we're a New Japan podcast and like a New Japan fan site because we were so heavily invested in covering New Japan because we knew we were getting in on the ground floor of something that quite literally no one was covering. They just weren't doing it. Dave Meltzer would give drive-by reviews of the big New Japan shows at best, and no one else in wrestling media was paying any attention to New Japan outside of the sites that covered Japanese wrestling. The Purarisu Spirit and all those places.
Right.
Most of which don't even exist anymore, which were great resources at the time, but most of them are gone. And we laser focused on that, and because we felt something brewing, and New Japan exploded in 2012, and the rest is history. And we exploded along with it. So we owe a lot of whatever we have earned in whatever we have created and earned, and the Voices of Wrestling has changed my life. It just has. This show, the Flagship, has changed my life. My life is completely different without it. And we owe all of that to Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada.
Absolutely.
All of it. Every ounce of it. We didn't do this covering WWE. We covered it, right? We didn't do this covering TNA. We didn't do this covering Ring of Honor. We covered all those things. We did this covering New Japan, Tanahashi, Okada, and the rise of New Japan's
those guys
era.
In that rivalry more than anything.
This motherfucker changed my life, Rich Craich.
Absolutely.
He changed my life. And I owe everything to Hiroshi Tanahashi when you really boil it down.
Yeah, I never thought of it. I really never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, I knew it was.
We're not doing this show right now without Hiroshi. We would have gave up on it.
Oh, for sure.
You think we would have covered the doldrums of WWE for 15
Joe,
years?
I don't think it would have happened at all because the reason we started was because you kept bothering me to watch Tanahashi and Suzuki. Because before I was just kind of like, we discussed wrestling on a sports video game message board, but it wasn't like I was a big wrestling fan, but I wasn't like locked into every single second of every single thing going on or whatever. And you kept telling me, you got to watch this match, you got to watch this match, you got to watch this match. And my fandom was kind of like, whatever, And yeah, I watched that match, the Minoru Suzuki Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I was like, motherfucker, that's fantastic. Like, where I want more. And then you said, hey, let's do it. Let's talk about this stuff. No one else is covering this. Let's talk about this. And that's really when, what became the Flagship started was really because of that match of Tanahashi and Suzuki. And then what really this whole thing becomes, where we really turn into something bigger is because of Okada and Tanahashi for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed the trajectory of both of our lives, and it's and for the better I'm in a much better place in my life because of Hiroshi Tanahashi, and it's like, and my God, did we try to fucking do it again? We tried to jump in on England, we tried to jump in on Australia. Yeah. We're like, we got to find another one of these fucking things because it's like. And to some degree, England did take off, but, speaking out, whatever happened there. And, that went up in flames, and Australia, the pandemic kind of killed all the momentum there. But yeah, so, it just led to us constantly looking for the next thing. But yeah, it's, I owe so much of the path that my life has taken to Hiroshi Tanahashi, and that, and he's got he's going to go another year. And, in terms of, not just New Japan, but in wrestling as a whole. I mean, again, he's an all-time Pantheon guy. I mean, he's an all-time great performer. The thing about Tanahashi is when New Japan was in the early stages of their golden era, there was a lot of pushback from the hardcore, tape heads and wrestling nerds and everything, and forum people. And because I think what happens is when something new breaks out in wrestling and it's not your thing or not the style that you like, there's just a natural human element to push back on how good it is, right? So there was a lot of that in those days. And Tanahashi was the lightning rod for a lot of the criticism of the New Japan style that was slowly just sweeping through American fandom, because there was no AEW and there was no, Ring of Honor was not what it was, a half a decade earlier, and TNA never really caught on like that. New Japan was the counterculture to WWE at that time. And Tanahashi was the lightning rod. And believe it or not, some people might not be able to wrap their heads around this. It was a very common thought among super hardcore wrestling nerds that Hiroshi Tanahashi sucked, that he was not even a good pro wrestler, let alone a great pro wrestler. And the thing about Tanahashi is he's so fucking great that he eventually most of those people eventually came around on the idea that not only does this guy not suck, but oh yeah, he's pretty brilliant. He's great. And you don't hardly ever see Tanahashi criticism like that anymore. You go back to 2012 to 2014, around that time, and Tanahashi was considered, believe it or not, massively divisive.
Right. Divisive. They didn't like the look. He looked too pretty. He was too much of a pretty boy.
There were any criticism you could, and
bad
the work,
worker, doesn't sell, too flippy. There was also, like, you could tell people didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, because, what was it? The moonsaults? Wasn't the Tanahashi's moonsaults?
Well, yeah, that one random asshole. He's
like,
not even.
All right, tell me all about Tanahashi's moonsaults.
I don't want to cast
no, it's not him.
No,
like actual people that I respect their opinions of.
Yeah,
had negative thoughts about Tanahashi, about the style that he worked, and the fast pace, and the moves with a Z, and maybe some no selling and that sort of stuff. So the idea of like what the Tanahashi template ended up being was largely thought of as like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I really love this. But like you're saying, nowadays I don't think you're going to find many people who would with a straight
a lot
face.
Of people, even a lot of the critics even admitted, like, hey, look, I was wrong, the guy's great, because he is great. And the more you watch of him, it's like, even his harshest critics eventually came around on him and stopped criticizing him. It's the best way I could describe it to people who weren't around at that time, it's a lot like the Will Ospreay criticisms today, is what you were hearing about Hiroshi Tanahashi. Like, people who thought he was like awful. There were people who thought he was awful, like a bad pro wrestler. I know that's hard to wrap your head around, but it's Rich. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so great that he was good enough to overcome that and convince people, like, we were wrong. He is great. But I think it was just that thing where New Japan was getting all this hype. And what's the natural human instinct to something that you feel like is overhyped? I understand.
Of course.
We've all been there with something, either in wrestling, outside of wrestling.
Oh, I don't think so. We're always pretty fair about World Wrestling Entertainment, the super hot product that is World Wrestling Entertainment. So I don't think that that's, quite fair. But no, I know exactly what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's like, you want to be like, oh, wait a minute, let me judge for myself. And you watch it with crossed arms and fucking gritted teeth. And I think there was a lot of that at that time. But the point is, Tanahashi is so great that he eventually won everybody over. And they're like, yeah, no, this guy, there's a brilliance to his work. There's, now I'm not saying that everybody thinks he's one of the 5 greatest wrestlers of all time, but you're going to find very few people who are like, Hiroshi Tanahashi, oh, he fucking sucks. But that was like pretty common for a few years there. But yeah, anyway, it's the end of just an amazing, and it's interesting that it's running parallel to Cena's, because that's kind of been like a dream match that no one ever got. People always wanted to see John Cena wrestle Hiroshi Tanahashi, because they were big stars at the exact same time in different parts of the world, and and occupied very similar roles in the promotions that they wrestled in. And it's just funny how they're both wrapping up and doing their retirement tours at the same time. Did I get kicked off the air? Unbelievable. I'm giving this impassioned speech about Hiroshi Tanahashi. Hopefully Rich Kraetsch just got up to take a leak because he thought I was going to talk longer.
No. Dog
okay,
issue. I'm here. I'm here.
All right. So, all right. Good. I thought I was
No, you're good.
giving this big emotional speech.
I think they all heard it. They all heard it. Yeah,
all right, good.
A dog barking issue. So,
all right. So, anything else? You got anything else, Tanahashi? I mean, plug the Patreon.
I wrote a big article there, flagshippatreon.com, if you want to read about it. Just a little bit about the history of Tanahashi, of course, the tragedy that, fucking nearly died. And if it was up to the person that, attacked him and stabbed him, that he was going to die. So, his a jilted former girlfriend tried to kill him and stabbed him a bunch of times. And he comes back and has the career that we all know and we all love. But yeah, mostly just focusing on the ups and downs of his career, and really just the selflessness of putting Okada over, like getting to that level, putting Okada over, and just how much and how important that was to New Japan's history, and how important he is to New Japan's history, and just how important he is to the wrestling world, and just how fucking great he was too. Just how really good. I mean, when you go through his accomplishments and the titles he's won and the tournaments he's won and the matches he's had, it's just like, Jesus Christ, man, this guy is unbelievable. And definitely going to do something too for the Patreon at some point next year, just a Tanahashi retrospective series or something, because now is a good time to go back and watch a lot of old Tanahashi and just really, really appreciate this guy for what he is, because it's unfortunate that the last couple of years have been so, he's looks terrible and can't wrestle at all. And it's like, and this is why, like, we always say, you and I are like counter to this, because a lot of people are the opposite of us. When guys start losing their ability, I don't want to see them anymore. I don't want to see them wrestle anymore. I don't want my mind to be clouded of Tanahashi over the last couple of years. I want to think about the great times when this guy was very clearly the best wrestler in the world for a number of years. Very clearly the top guy. Very clearly just an unbelievable wrestler. I don't want to see guys. So I'm glad he's calling it quits. I'm glad he's not going to hang around for another 10 years and do a bunch of really bad matches. I don't like, a lot of people like that. Oh, this old wrestler that I used to like is still hanging around doing horrible matches. Why do you want to see that? Why do you want to remember the guy like that? I don't want to remember Hiroshi Tanahashi for what I've seen over the last couple of years. I want to remember him for what he did from 2010 to 2018 or whatever. I want to remember him for that era. And even some stuff before that as well. That's how I want to remember Hiroshi Tanahashi. Not I don't want to be clouded by now another 10 years of him just doing bad, 6-man tag matches with like Bolton. Like that's not what I want. So I'm glad that he said, all right, this is it. January 2026, I'm out. I'm done. That's it for me. So yeah, and he's impactful too, because he's the president of the fucking company too. We should also note. It's not just in-ring wise, It's one thing, but he's also literally the president of the company now too. So he has a hand in all the business of the company. But yeah, it's incredible.
I think it's the sports fan in us, where we don't watching these guys that are well past their prime, and we're not into it. And I think that comes from being sports fans.
Yeah, nobody wants to see Patrick Ewing on the Supersonics. You know what I mean?
No one needs it.
I don't need Hakeem Olajuwon on the Raptors. Like I don't want that.
I don't want to see with any of these guys like what we saw with Keiji Muto, where the guy literally can barely move, and then you try to convince yourself that the matches are good. I mean, that was like just a terrible 2-year period of having to watch that guy in main events who could barely stand, let alone work. And then people trying to convince themselves that it was masterful. Oh, he's still great. No, it's awful. It's awful. And I don't want to see any of the greats do that. But I think that's because we're sports fans. I think other people approach it differently, and they don't ever want their legends to go away. And I'm not saying that there's anything even wrong with that necessarily, but it's not for me. It's not for me. I think when you're washed up, I'd rather just see it. If you can't perform at a reasonable level, I don't want to see you anymore. I have no interest in it. I never have had interest in it. People have gotten on us and called us, all kind. But
we're ageist. We're ageist because we don't want to see old guys wrestle
and
badly.
all this other bullshit. And it's like, no, I mean, it's not good. I mean, it's like, somebody's guy like Dory Funk Jr. getting in there as an 82-year-old on these All Japan shows a few years ago. He just wrestled not that long ago, and it's like, why does anyone want to watch that? If you like Dory, go watch something from 1978.
Right, there's plenty of Dory Funk out there for you to watch, and that's
I mean, why do you want to see this shit? So Tanahashi's kind of hard to watch now. I couldn't imagine what he would look like, 5 years from now. I don't want to see that. I don't have any interest in that. So, anyway, we should probably go through the rest of this show.
Yeah.
We do have some other stuff to get to.
Yeah, let's do that. So we'll start at the beginning of the show and then work our way back up to the semi-main event. A very interesting opener here. Hiromu Takahashi versus Mystico. These guys, I don't know, man. This must be oil and water with Hiromu and Mystico. I didn't like their match in CMLL. I didn't like this one either. I don't know. These two guys seem like they should be good together, but I don't know what they are. I don't know what's going on with this. But Hiromu got the win here, so obviously we're building up to a future. I think they were talking about doing a hair versus mask match at some point. I don't know if anything's been announced for that too, but assume that Hiromu's going to go to Mexico and probably lose his hair in a match against Mystico at some big-time Arena Mexico show coming up soon.
I loved it.
You loved it?
I thought,
wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I love this match. I thought it was a charisma explosion. I just thought this ring was just, I'm watching this, then this ring is just loaded with charisma. And Mystico is doing these topes and dominating the match to the point where I was like, oh, he's losing, because I was curious who was going to win this. And, and Hiromu comes back and beats him in the end, but, and they didn't go super long. It was the opener, but no, I had a blast watching this. In fact, that's going to be a theme. I thought this show was great. I was really into this show. There were matches on this show that I wasn't expecting to like, that I really did like. And now look, there were a couple matches on this thing that, I could have lived without, but thankfully, like the Dookie show thing out, they did a brawl outside the ring, and then they didn't even really do a match. So that saved us the show, a full on show experience. But other than a few things like that, I mean, and starting with this match, I thought this show was a fucking blast.
The match this match I loved. Love this match. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Title match. Intergalactic Jet Setters Kevin Knight and Kushida defeats Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney. I'll say I watched this unspoiled. When they said, is that Kushida's, does he have a rocket pack? And he hit a button and then smoke came out of his rocket pack. I was like, that dude's winning the match, right? You don't get a rocket pack if you're going to lose the match, right? Well, no, he didn't get a rocket pack because he was losing the match, because him and Kevin Knight won the titles. I thought Kevin Knight.
Hey, tell Max Moon you're not going to lose if you get a rocket pack.
Yeah, he stared at some lights after the rocket pack too. You're right.
Paul Diamond's listening to you right now going, hey, wait a minute, Richard Page.
Yeah, what?
I drove you around in a cab. And then you're telling me I shouldn't have lost with a rocket pack, and all I did was lose with a rocket pack. So,
but I thought Kevin Knight was phenomenal in this match, man. This is a guy that they have to keep around more often. He's gotten a lot better too. I don't know how much Kevin Knight you've watched. I know our friend Biss in Texas for Inspire AD always was booking Kevin Knight for a while too, and he was telling me little by little this guy was getting better. He started making me watch some of these matches, and I was like, oh man, this Kevin Knight guy, he is getting it together. It's he hasn't been a full-time regular in New Japan, so it's like hard to for him to get a lot of good reps there, where I think they might want to do that. I think he's worthwhile bringing in. But you saw him in this match. You see the growth. He's maturing. He's getting bigger. He's learning the ropes a little bit better, and he still has this incredible athleticism to the point where the stuff he was doing in this match was just blowing these fans' mind. That one dive that he does out to the outside, he does a springboard and then jumps over the guardrail into like the 10th row into the crowd, was just fucking phenomenal. And he was just doing drop kicks that like you've never seen before. I thought he was so good here, and Kushida seemed jazzed up too. And that's been hard to get Kushida to be excited about anything in the last like 5 years. He seemed pretty jazzed up here. I loved this match, and love that the Jet Setters got the win. And I'll say the Bullet Club War Dogs are doing a great job of making Kevin Knight look like $1 million too, bumping all over the place for him, taking big shots, being a great base for him. So I thought this was great. I thought this junior title match was fantastic.
Yeah, Kevin Knight was the star of the match. He was phenomenal. that one springboard dive he did. I couldn't believe the height that he got. I watched that about 6 times. Just a gorgeous springboard dive. He was phenomenal the whole match. He's coming on real strong.
27 years old, by the way, for Kevin Knight. So it's this is the time. This is it.
This is a guy who just everything's out in front of him, and they're going to be featured now throughout the winter and through Wrestle Kingdom because they're the junior champs. They're going into the tournament as the junior champs, so they're going to be in a lot of featured matches. I don't believe he's under contract. I don't believe he's under TNA contract either. I think he's just a total freelancer. Kushida is not under New Japan. These are guys they bring in for a couple tours a year, but they're going to get some heavy focus right now. And yeah, Kevin Knight, you said it. He was without question the star of the match.
TMDK. This is a match we had circled. TMDK, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste defend the IWGP Tag Team titles against the Bullet Club Rogue Army of Bad Luck Fale and Caveman Ugg. What do you think of Caveman Ugg in New Japan Pro Wrestling? I'm in, man. I'm in.
Caveman Ugg was utterly fantastic in this match. He worked this match like he was trying to get a job. And because that's exactly what was happening here. He was lobbying to get a job. He was so good. He emptied the holster. Everything this guy's got, he left in that fucking ring. And he looked great. And I was curious how the gimmick would come across on a big New Japan show, if it would come across goofy or if it would come across, you know what I mean? Because it's a fucking caveman gimmick.
He's a literal caveman,
but
yeah.
It didn't come across goofy. You know what he struck me as? This is a guy that Inoki would have beaten all over the loop if he came in 1983.
Oh, it's so dude. If Inoki got his eyes on Caveman Ugg, oh my god, this guy's
like,
coming
I gotta
in.
beat that guy. Yeah.
Right, I gotta bring him back and beat his ass. So we're gonna do.
I'm beating him in every city. Yeah,
yep.
And I thought he looked. If I'm watching this, if I have a spot, I'm using him now. I mean, because he worked his ass off. He looked great. The fans, the gimmick is, it's you run the risk of the fans treating the gimmick like a joke, but that isn't what happened here. Much like Kevin Knight, he was the clear star of this match. Bad Luck Fale was there too. He was there too.
He took like 3 bumps. I love this man's bumps where I'm not bumping in that ring, but what you could do is you could hit me and I'll use the guardrail to fall back. Like that's all he did is like he got hit, then you go, oh, and he'd land on the guardrail. And I'm like, you can take a bump, dude. Right? Bump. Come on.
Is he dyeing his beard gray or is he just old?
I don't know. I was wondering that too. It was kind of a good look. I won't lie. The gray beard was kind of a good look for Bad Luck Fale, but
it's not in combination with his lack of athleticism and movement though, because it makes him seem like he's 60 years old. Yeah. So TMDK retains the titles, but the story here was Caveman Ugg. There's no doubt about it. He was really great.
No, I loved him. So yeah, you're absolutely right. As I'm watching that, and then you mentioned it in our Discord or something like that. Like Inoki would have had him on the loop, coming back in 2 months to be on the loop.
He beat him in every city
and lose everywhere. Yeah,
he would make sure he beat the caveman. He'd be beating that guy. Big, intimidating looking guy, unique look. He'd definitely have like a sumo hall match against him and beat him.
Oh yeah, the King of Sports the King of Sports has to
like
defeat the caveman.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Now my favorite match on the entire show, Shingo Takagi, Ryohei Oiwa. I mean, dude, it was Shingo and Oiwa. Now, I think what's the best part about this? Not only is this my favorite match of the night, I am positive. These guys have a better match in them. Several better matches in them. I'm positive of it, though. Sure. But you've been on the Oiwa train for a long time now, and everyone's starting to catch up little by little. This dude's got it, man. I am very convinced that he is going to be the crowd connections there already. He's got a little bit of that. What I love about what he's doing right now is he's coming in New Japan, but he's got all these Noah influences. He's using all these Masawa moves, these Kobashi moves or whatever. And eventually there's going to be a part of a story. I'm positive of it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, wait, hold on a minute, man. You're New Japan. But he's like, oh, no. I learned in Noah, though. Yeah, I'm a New Japan guy, but I learned in Noah. They're gonna be able to do so much with this guy moving forward. So you had Shingo here, the Dragon Gate representative for all intents and purposes in New Japan, versus this guy that learned and figured everything out in Noah. here in New Japan, I mean, this was just a battle of styles, and I loved the back and forth between these guys. And all I know is, as much as I loved it, there's so much better that they can do in the future. So I can't wait to see this match again, and it's going to happen again.
I'm buying all the Oiwa stock. I put him right there with Tsuji in terms of guys. I don't think it's going to be hard for him to miss. Did they have Fujita, Eyeball, and Takagi? That seems like a weird match. I felt like they
did. Yeah, they did.
That I know it's the open weight title, but that one feels weird, especially with Fujita, in the Super Junior Tag League with Eagles. I don't know. That one feels a little strange. But this was a great match, and I think Oiwa acquitted himself well, and there was just a different kind of snap. I liked this better than the matches Oiwa had with Kiyomiya. There was more snap to it, and Kiyomiya, I think, is a little overrated in the sense that he comes across like a tryhard. I know he wasn't on this show, and I'm picking on him like out of the blue here, but Kiyomiya oftentimes comes across like a tryhard in that he seems to always he's trying to make things epic. Just
right.
Go out there and work hard, and they'll be epic if they're epic. He feels like he's trying to make everything epic and he's like force the motion into everything. And, then I watch Shingo wrestle this guy, and they just go out there and wrestle, and they have a better match than Oiwa ever had with Kiyomiya. So, but that's Shingo Takagi. He's an all-time.
It's also
wrestler.
Shingo Takagi. Yeah, right.
Right.
That was good stuff. Yeah, so we had a good start to the show here. Things started to slow down a little bit here. New Japan World 3-way match. Ren Narita wins the New Japan World title, defeating Jeff Cobb and Yota Tsuji. I didn't love this one because it began our little streak of shit stirrers and House of Torture guys. I thought they did this 3-way in a decent way, but we all kind of knew what the finish was going to be, and we kind of knew what the plan was going to be here. Now, I don't know if I necessarily thought that Ren Narita was going to win the title, but I thought he'd be involved in the fall. But you knew that he was going to be, coming in with weapons and distractions and pulling guys out of the ring and doing all that sort of stuff. But he eventually got the win. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't love this, and this began a period of about 20 minutes in this match where I kind of was ready to roll my eyes, but they got me back in the end.
This was always going to be an uphill battle with the 3-way. I hated that they did it. I hated that Narita won. But was it a terrible match? Was it? It wasn't as bad as I thought it could have ended up being. It was fine. I don't have a ton more to say about it.
This match was not fun. It was probably the worst match on the entire night. Phantasmo, Tanahashi, Shota Umino versus the House of Torture, Evil, Kanemaru, Yujiro, just the full on.
I thought it was harmless fun. I didn't.
Man.
I wasn't looking forward to it, and I didn't care about it. But I just thought it was harmless fun in the middle of the show, and it didn't affect normally would because I'm grumpy about this kind of shit. But in my notes, it says House of Torture angle. I don't know what that means. Did they do an angle at the end that I don't remember?
What did the House of Torture do at the end of this match? Oh, no, Tanahashi. Tanahashi announced his retirement, and then they beat him up. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's what I meant by that, yeah. So we already talked about all that.
Right.
So, but anyway, yeah.
Then we had another House of Torture. There was just a lot of House of Torture back to back to back. I guess they made it easy because they put it all together. But I was like, all right, can we just have a good wrestling match? Is it so hard that when New Japan Pro Wrestling could just have a good wrestling match and not fucking Dick Togo and crowd brawling and House of Torture? I know it's a big ask. I understand. I get it. But, maybe we could break this up. I don't need, 30 straight minutes of House of Torture bullshit. But then we had Dookie and Show. And when I got really excited when I watched this match spoiled and people said, oh, it's only 14 seconds. I went, oh, great. Perfect. It's about as long as I want to watch Show. But they brawled inside the ring for...
They brawled a lot.
Yeah, they brawled a lot. And I was like, oh, fuck me. I thought this thing was going to be in and out in 14 seconds. No, this thing lasted, in totality, 10 minutes or so because they brawled outside the ring. But then when they got in the ring...
Just officially 14
Right.
minutes.
The bell rang. Dookie got unmasked. Sprayed mist in Show. And then, pinned him. And I was like, all right, cool. Whatever.
Yeah, but Dookie retained and it was a pleasant surprise.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad for that, for sure.
That giant dork Master Wato's coming back, which
yeah, man, what a punch that was. I was like, oh boy, we're done with the dorks. Let's get on to the real stuff here. And then Master Wato came out, and I was like, oh damn it, I forgot about this guy.
He's barely any better than House of Torture. That fucking dork. I can't stand that guy. Yeah, so
a lot of dorks. They got a couple good few too many dorks in this promotion, if you ask me. That's why I want Oiwa. That's why I want Oiwa pushed to the top. Hartley Jackson, that's not a dork. You know what I mean?
Definitely not a dork.
A guy that is no longer a dork. I'm officially ready to admit it. IWGP Global Heavyweight title match. David Finlay defeats Hiroki Goto. This rocked. This was really good. So
it was really good.
Yeah.
Now it was Goto, but Finlay has the one thing about Finlay now is he has really cool offense that he has developed. And now what they're doing too, he established those buckle bombs as kind of like part of his closing stretch. And now that that's been established, he has guys countering off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like you could see he set that up over a period of time. And now this is like 2 singles matches in a row where the opponent countered off of the first buckle bomb when you think Finlay's about to take control with like the triple buckle bomb. So he's adding layers to his matches like that. And, you know, this had good heat. People were behind Goto. And, you know, they really made something out of a mess, which led to this match, and they got a singles match out of it. And Goto's always going to work hard in a spot like this. And yeah, I thought the match was really great. And, you know, Taichi's going to be the next challenger, which, you know, I know a lot of people seem to be confused about David Finlay wrestling Taka in the UK, but that's just because Taka's in Taichi's unit.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, the whole way this started, by the way, so Finlay defeats Goto, which, you know, classic Goto. He's got his family there. So you're like, oh, he can't lose in front of his family, right? No, he can lose in front of his family. So he lost and he goes to his sons and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Dad lost again. They're like, we're used to it, Dad. It's okay. But good match anyway. So then Finlay at the end of the match goes, all right, I'm going to call out Yuya Uemura. And the crowd goes, boo, because he's out. He just tore his tricep or whatever. And he's going to be out for months and months and months and months. So that's kind of the shit. That's the heat there is David Finlay's like, I'll take on any challengers. Yuya Uemura, come on down, you know, type of thing. So Taichi comes down. And he's like, hey, that's not cool, man. You know what I mean? That's my guy. And I love the little Taka defense. I love Taka being like, whoa, hold on, man. Fuck you. Don't be throwing shade at my team. So, yeah, I'm rooting for Taka, man. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to hit that Michinoku driver. The 1, 2, 3.
Let's go.
Right? A little global title run for my man Taka Michinoku. But
non-title.
Oh, it's non-title. Damn it. I guess he hasn't earned that. I guess Taka hasn't. You know, in AEW, they would have given him. You know what? You know what? I'm glad. In AEW, would have given Taka Michinoku a title shot.
It'd absolutely be. No, it would be a fucking eliminator match, is what it would be.
Right.
Fucking eliminator match. No one even knows what those are.
Eliminator match. It's an eliminator match, which means this, and then 3 people give you 3 completely different answers. Yeah. No, it's very clear. It's very clear what an eliminator match is, Joe. It's this, and it's not 3 different answers.
Everyone thinks it's something different.
Right.
And then Excalibur would be screaming 10 minutes after this angle. Tony Khan, Gato is in my ear, and we've just been told that Taka Michinoku will take on David Finlay at Royal Quest in an eliminator match. And then just roll your eyes. Just fucking
with the graphic.
With the eliminator matches.
With the graphic.
Yeah. Both standing there with their fists up like the Fighting Irish logo. Like fucking standing there facing each other like they do for Rampage. Eliminator match. Taka Michinoku versus David Finlay. Yeah, so that'll be at Royal Quest. Now, the RevPro show's the day before on Saturday.
So let's talk about that one.
But Royal Quest is on Sunday. So, you know, and everybody's going to be in town for the RevPro show, which now has the full card, which we only knew a couple of the matches for both shows, actually, right? We have full cards for both.
We got full cards. Yeah, we got full cards for a huge weekend, by the way. So RevPro on demand. I definitely want to jump on there because they'll have Global Wars. And then I think Royal Quest is... So what's the deal with Royal Quest? That'll be on New Japan World, right?
Yeah, it's on Rev too. It's on Rev Live.
Okay, I think is it on English and Rev and Japanese?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're on RevPro, you're gonna get Royal Quest and Global Wars English.
Yeah, you're getting Global Wars because it's a RevPro show, but you're also getting Royal Quest with English commentary on RevPro.
All right, that might be the play then. That might be the play there.
So a lot of people might not realize that, but that's for whatever reason, that's how they're doing it. You get the Japanese commentary on New Japan World. I don't know if it's a pay-per-view separate or if it's part of New Japan World, but you get the Japanese commentary on New Japan World. But yeah, it's on RevPro too. So RevPro's gonna have both shows back to back.
Big weekend.
I am told. By the way, I haven't watched any of it yet, but I was told that they upgraded their.
I heard the same. I'm curious. I'm curious how it looks and how it sounds.
See. This will be a big weekend for them.
Absolutely.
To see if that's the case.
So you broke down a little bit of these cards, so I'm not going to go into huge detail. You did a Flagship Plus episode earlier this week over at flagshippatreon.com breaking down these cards. But I'll say quickly, the Global Wars UK, Luke Jacobs versus Tomohiro Ishii is just, this is the type of shit that, like, when we say wrestling is not that hard and all you have to do is think ahead a little bit, this is what we're talking about here with Luke Jacobs and Tomohiro Ishii. So you have this up-and-coming Luke Jacobs guy who kind of, in a lot of ways, kind of mimics Ishii's getting big and he's throwing bombs. Like, that's kind of his style or whatever. It all starts with him getting, it's just basic A to B to C booking that we should be commonplace in today's wrestling, but the fact of the matter is it's not. And we get the match like this, and it's like, oh, this is how it should be. This is the way it should go. But it's so rare, and that's why we're putting it over, because they just booked the way that you should book by just thinking ahead a little bit. It boggles my mind. But it's a big-time matchup now for these guys.
Well, yeah, what you're referring to is they had Ishii and Luke Jacobs have that series of matches last year where, they traded wins and everything, and it got Luke Jacobs over, and then he wins the title from Oku, and and now look who's his first challenger, right? Tomohiro Ishii,
and Ishii beat him both times too, which is important in this case, where Ishii beat him both times. So now Luke Jacobs is like, oh, I'm the champion, I beat everybody, and who here comes walking down from the ramp? But Ishii to say, hey, you haven't beat me. You beat everybody. Yeah, I'm glad you're the champion.
I think I said traded wins, but yeah, he beat him. So now he's the champ. Yeah. And that's just basic, solid booking. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to burn people's houses down. You don't have to, do this whole rigmarole. This works. This is simple. You don't have to fight over fucking chili peppers on a fucking necklace. You don't have to do all of that. Okay? You can just do this.
Right. A guy beats a guy twice.
He's my first challenger.
Right. A guy beats a guy twice. The other guy wins a title, and then the guy that beat him said, all right, can you beat me, though? You beat everybody else, but now you got to beat me. You haven't proven you can beat me yet. And guess what? We're fucking excited about it. I cannot wait this weekend for Jacobs versus Ishii. Elsewhere on the card, I'll go real quick here. Mina Shirakawa versus Lizzie Evo for the undisputed British Women's World title. Will Craven versus Cameron Kai for the Cruiserweight title. Ricky Knight Jr. and Oku, number one contendership for the British Heavyweight title. Sorry, you were saying something. I don't want to interrupt.
Will Caven, not Will.
Oh, what did I say? Will Caven. Will Caven. I apologize.
It's easy to say Craven.
Will Caven. Mascara Dorada versus Leo Rush. That should be really fun. I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
And then Tanahashi coming into Global Wars. Tanahashi, Leon Slater, and Zizoya versus Connor Mills, Gabe Kidd, and Jay Joshua. That's an interesting little match there. And then Callum Newman and JJ Gale versus Bushi and Hiromu. So having some New Japan talent, obviously, on Global Wars, but that's a really fun-looking card.
So could RKJ beating Oku be Oku's goodbye? Because allegedly he signed to AEW.
Yeah, I don't know. We mentioned that up last week, and I know a few other people have mentioned it too. I don't know what I don't know the deal with Oku. Yeah.
RKJ and Luke Jacobs seems like a natural program for the top of the card.
Sure.
So I think he'll win that match, and then I think that might be it for Oku. That's him just losing on his way out. He loses to Jacobs, he loses to RKJ, off to Rampage, right?
Right.
So,
and then we go to the Royal Quest show, October 20th. So that'll be the Sunday show, obviously, as we mentioned. Available in English in RevPro and Japanese on New Japan World. Our main event there is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Sonata. I mean, there's a 0% chance Sonata wins this match, but hey, great homecoming for Zack Sabre Jr. He's going to be over like a motherfucker here at the Crystal Palace. I mean, I cannot even imagine what that reaction is going to be like for Zack Sabre Jr. walking in as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. But that's going to be awesome. New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles. TMDK making the stop here to face Tanahashi and Ishii. Hiromu, Naito, and Titan versus Robbie Eagles, Oiwa, and Mascara Dorada. Taka Michinoku versus David Finlay, as we mentioned. I cannot wait for that match, man. Taka and David Finlay is going to rock. Yeah. Shota Umino versus Callum Newman. Joel Maloney versus Yota Tsuji. Michael Oku versus Kosei Fujita. Azumi and Danny Luna versus Kanji, Mina Shirakawa. Danny Black and Joe Lando, your guy, versus X and Taiji Ishimori. Do you have any guesses on X of who this man would be? This Taiji Ishimori partner.
I have no guesses on X.
I have no guesses either. Should we have guesses?
I'm not asking around. I want to be surprised.
Okay.
Because that's going to be his partner in the tag league.
Right. Because X is his partner, right? So this is the guy.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is going to be, they're in the UK. Is there anyone that would be coming back from an excursion that we've forgotten about? Is there? I don't know.
Zandokan? Are we doing? You wouldn't do Zandokan as like a question mark, right? If he's coming back for a run, maybe it's Caveman Ugg. Maybe it's Caveman Ugg.
Seems like it's not going to be Caveman Ugg. He's part of the Rogue Army.
That's why it's a question. He's turned to the dark side.
Wait, Ishimori is Bullet Club too. Wait, it could be. No, but he's not a junior. That's the problem.
Right.
It's gonna be a junior tournament. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who it's gonna be, but they'll win and they'll go into the junior tournament, and I don't even want to think too hard about it.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It'll be fun to be surprised. And
I
then
just want to let that all play out.
Yeah. And then the opener is going to be Brendan White and Danny Jones versus Youngblood, Oscar Lube, and Yuto Nakashima, which sounds like a really, really fun match too. So both these cards sound phenomenal. I'm all the way locked in on New Japan.
It's gonna be a fun weekend.
And RevPro this weekend for sure.
Weekend.
We'll do Power Struggle later. We got November 4th. We got plenty of fucking time for Power Struggle, but we don't have a lot of time for
the whole tour.
Yeah, we got Maple Leaf Wrestling coming up. Excited about Maple Leaf Wrestling debuting this weekend?
No.
Okay. Yeah, neither am I. Scott D'Amore's new startup here. Big production values were promised. Big graphics, big names, a lot of stuff, but it's Scott D'Amore. I don't know. We were always the people. Every time everybody was like, Tony Khan should bring in Scott D'Amore. We're like, why? Point me to what Scott D'Amore's done recently that makes me want to hand over my book to Scott D'Amore in a Major League Wrestling company.
I don't have time to do a whole Scott D'Amore thing, but I did it when he got released or fired from TNA. I don't like his booking. I don't like his ideas. I don't like the way Scott D'Amore's wrestling is presented. So no, I was never on board with that. Look, I wish this project well. It's always good to have another high profile, professionally run indie on the scene, because there are very few high profile, professionally run indies on the scene, a place where wrestlers can go to get work that they can count on. They know they're going to work with professionals, with high level professional wrestlers. They know they're going to work in a high level professional environment. I remember being on a New Japan media call with Juice Robinson many years ago. And someone asked him, I don't think it was my question, but someone asked him something about, why don't you work that many indies? And should I give this answer in the Juice voice, or should I just?
Of course. Yeah. Joliet Juice. Yeah. Give that Joliet Juice voice. Get out there.
So basically he was like, and a profanity laced answer, as would be par for the course for Juice Robinson. I don't want to work these fucking indies. You never know what kind of ring you're going to get. And you're going to, you're bumping on these shitty rings, and you're going to get booked with these shit workers. And he was just like blunt as to why he doesn't work indies, and he's, and he's hemming and hawing and talking, and, and to have, this promotion at minimum is going to be professionally run, and it's going to have top level talent on it. And if you're a wrestler looking for extra work, or if D'Amore's going to have regulars, it's a place where you can go, where you don't have to worry about the quality of the venue or the ring or the person you're working with, or you're going to get your payoff and everything else. The other thing about D'Amore is, at one point he had backing to purchase TNA.
Yeah.
And they chose to just get rid of him instead. So there might be some money behind this thing.
Oh, I think there is. You look at some of the names that are involved in this and the people that are getting involved. I was told that D'Amore has a good amount of cash on hand to pay for these things if he wants to. And they got, more Ronaldo's doing it. It looks like the production's going to be good. Graphics look good. The marketing looks pretty good. The names booked look pretty good, which, hey, I'm all for it, man. Like you said, another player in the marketplace, that's great. A professionally run indie, I don't have to like it to appreciate that it's a part of the marketplace. But I think there's money in here for sure. I do think Scott D'Amore's got money in this thing.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then you would presume that people are going to get some good payoffs. The production will be good. it'll be a professional operation. I think the scene is begging for that right now, the indie scene. And I presume this is going to be a high profile, quote unquote, big indie. You know, if he's got, you know, I don't want to use the phrase delusions of grandeur because it has negative connotations, but if he has his eyes on doing something a little bigger, good luck to him. I don't think that's going to work out. But, you know, I'm just going to assume this is going to be a well-run, professional, well-backed indie, which, man, are we not begging for that right now?
Oh God, yeah. Did you see the GCW announcement today as well?
I thought that video was great.
It was really well done.
They're leaning into the idea that the last show sucked in Hammerstein, which is, you know, that's the way to go. You know, don't, you know, so yeah. And I thought that the video itself was, you know, you got Matt Cardona as the judge and all the wrestlers pleading guilty to how bad the last show was is kind of the idea. And then they get dragged into the prison bus and taken to Manhattan Center, right? And then, you know, the idea is, you know, they're going to rally and they're going to have a much better show this time around. And it would be impossible to not have a better show because that was one of the worst shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it probably will be bad too, though. It'll probably still be bad, but at least I appreciate that.
It's still Game Changer, and I don't have any interest in it whatsoever. I just don't care. Matt Cardona, and I look, I don't have any problem with Matt Cardona. I think he has done an incredible job carving a niche for himself, making a lot of money. He's the biggest indie star in America. There's no doubt about it. I have no interest in watching him wrestle at all. I just don't have. I have zero interest
after that
in anything.
Death match, I've never been interested in a single match he's had since that death match, which was what 3 years ago at this point.
I mean, I'm just completely over it. Even though I respect the hustle and he's done a great job, he's doing so well that it's like he could like pick his spots and turn down contracts at this point if they're not advantageous to him. But you know, and the rest of the roster, again, I mean, Effie always works hard, and I've talked positively about Effie, but I don't want to watch Effie wrestle. I don't want to watch the Alley Cat do anything.
Oh, but
I
what
don't
about the big
watch...
feud? They've broken up. Alley Catch and Effie have broken up. It's a big time feud.
Look, I hope it fills Hammerstein and they have a great show. I am not interested. Are we going to watch it and review it? Probably.
I said I wouldn't watch any GCW after Hammerstein, but I guess if they go back to Hammerstein, I have to watch it. So
look, I like Joey Janela. He's always been good to us, and he's another guy. He does his own thing, and he does it well, and he don't give a fuck. And I respect Joey Janela. You know, but Game Changer it's just not for me, and it never has been for me. And we've quit trying. And the last Hammerstein show was really one of the primary reasons for that. You know, they got Blake Christian, you know, Matthew Justice. I could take or leave.
Tony Deppen.
Now we're reaching.
Yeah.
Tony Deppen. I mean, you know, now we're reaching. It's guys that's like, all right, whatever. But, yeah. So we'll see. It's ambitious to try it again. They don't feel nearly as hot as they were at their peak. It feels like more than ever, they're just in their own little corner.
They retreated to their bubble. Hammerstein was there. They were growing and growing and growing and growing. And Hammerstein was the moment where everybody was tuned in to say, okay, what are these guys? Is this a real thing? Are these guys legit? Are they going to, you know, expand out of this bubble? What's it going to be? And that bubble fucking popped. And now they're just completely back in that bubble again, which is fine. That's okay. That's probably where they belong anyway. But yeah, that's what happened after the Hammerstein show.
I think we should peek our head in and watch. And you know, Jordan Oliver is someone that I admire for working so hard to get better.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's not like, you know, I know we've beaten up Game Changer in the past, but it's like, you know, there's positive things I could say about a lot of the people that frequently work for them. And, you know, we'll see. I mean, I can't get a feel. They're going to do it in January. It's around the time of year they did it last time too, I think. But I don't have a feel for how it's going to do compared to the last one, because I just feel like there's no buzz around Game Changer anymore. But at the same time, what does that mean? Do we just have a bad read on it? Are they still, you know, they still do decent houses almost everywhere they go?
Yeah, they still do well. They still do well. So
are fans going to rally around the idea that they're doing another show? Are fans going to buy in and say that they have to help make this one be better? That's kind of the thing. As a promoter, if you could convince the fans that they're part of the feeling, and they're part of the, you know what I mean? That's big.
And I think that addressing how the first show wasn't good, I think, is a good way to do that. I think it's masterful marketing by them. I will say I was a little disappointed.
It is. I thought the video.
They didn't use any of the clips from our show, believe it or not. They used clips from other shows, but they, for some reason, didn't.
That's because we went a little harder.
Oh, yeah, they were kind of milquetoasty. The ones that they used were people being like, "Yeah, I don't know if it was their best foot forward, or I don't know, it was kind of mid.
It wasn't mid.
Well,
it wasn't mid. It was fucking
guys.
horrendous.
This show fucking sucks, and these guys are ruined forever. Yeah. This show's gonna ruin this company forever." Yeah, they didn't play that clip, but no, I agree. It's masterful marketing to kind of embrace the fact that, okay, look, we're not going to run from the fact that the Hammerstein show was kind of a disaster. So give us another chance. And you know what? You guys can rally. We're going to rally. Let's do this one more time. Let's do this one more time and prove to the world. So I think they can get the crowd. I think they can get their fans to do it. Now, are the people that were burned by the first Hammerstein show going to be willing to jump back in? That's the big issue is those sort of people that have to prevent.
There's a lot of people who bought the pay-per-view who will never buy it again. That they can't fix. They've run off a lot of people who. That show was a disaster from the standpoint of people who heard about Game Changer, gave it a try because it was a high-profile show, saw one of the worst things they ever saw in their life, and said, "I'm never giving money to this promotion again." That's where they got hurt, and I don't think they're going to convince those people to try another Game Changer show based on this cute video. That it's not going to work for them. Who this marketing will work for are their existing fans to rally around the show and try to make it a us versus them thing, and let's help prove everybody wrong and Game Changers back and all of that. The first timers who gave it a try, they're gone. I mean, that show was so irredeemably awful that none of those people are like your random WWE fan or whatever who gave it a shot. They're never fucking watching that shit again.
No. But Maple Leaf is coming up this weekend. I think they're doing Triller, I believe, is their home. Triller TV powered by Fight. You have night one, main evented, Mike Bailey versus Konosuke Takeshita. Jake something in a Champions Grail match. I think that's the name of the belt. Rohan Raja. QT Marshall versus Budapinder Gujar. So we got a lot of Indian talent on here. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that man's name right. But
where's the show? Is it Toronto?
This show is at, let me make sure where it is. I think Forged in Excellence. Let me make sure it is in, I want to say it's in Windsor. Yeah, Windsor, St. Clair College. They used to run there a lot. TNA used to run there a lot, I should say.
How close is that to Toronto?
Windsor to Toronto, pretty close.
I only ask because Toronto, I believe, has a very heavy South Asian population.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Can confirm that for sure.
so that's, so it would make sense to book South Asian talent.
Right. Yeah, it's a good move there. It is 4 hours away. So actually Windsor. Oh, I did not realize it was that far away. Okay.
Oh, so it's not that close.
No, 4 hours away from, but Canada, that region of Canada has a pretty heavy population, so that makes sense.
Of South Asians, right?
Yeah.
Like that whole, yeah,
for sure. Tables match, though, nobody wants to see this. Bully Ray versus Raj Desi, the former Jinder Mahal. So Jinder Mahal versus Bully Ray in a tables match. Great. Four-way match here. Kylie Ray, Laney Luck, Aurora Tevez, and Taylor Rising. El Phantasmo. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The thing is, you book Bully Ray because he's going to promote it on Busted Open for the next 7 days, so.
Kylie Ray, Laney Luck. Oh, I said that one. El Phantasmo, Josh Alexander, and Stu Grayson versus Alex Zane, Rocky Romero, and Trevor Lee. And then Miyu Yamashita versus Giselle Shaw will be on night one. So, Mike Bailey, Takeshita.
It's a lot of names.
It's a lot of names.
Curiosity to see how it all comes off. It should be fine.
Night two looks a lot stronger. Night two is on the Sunday, and that is Takeshita versus Josh Alexander, Athena defending the ROH Women's title against Giselle Shaw, and El Phantasmo versus Mike Bailey is what we have so far for night two.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks all right. That wasn't on purpose. That's just
jeez. Yeah, but no, I'm gonna watch
12 hours of audio in 3 days.
No, we've done a lot. We've definitely done a lot, and that's why I'm ready to say goodbye for tonight. But I'll definitely lock in for Maple Leaf Pro and hopefully we'll review that on the show next week. But busy weekend in wrestling, and we're going to cover it all next week on the Flagship. Go to flagshippatreon.com right now to subscribe.
Hey, the Hall of Fame shows.
Hall of Fame
plug the Hall
audio.
of Fame show.
Yeah, this is where I'll plug it right now. We had our first show, a Lucha show with Rob Viper. Fantastic rave reviews that we've heard so far from that. So breaking down the Lucha ballot with Rob Viper. By the time most of you guys listen to this, our 3+ hour discussion with Ethan Tyler, talking non-wrestlers, will be up on the Patreon as well. So flagshippatreon.com.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about that show. First of all, I hope you have a long drive planned. That's 3 hours plus. Second of all, it's the non-wrestler show, a lot of careers of people who died in the 1960s, okay? If you're into history, listen to that show, sit under the learning tree. You are going to learn something. If you're into history and you want a history lesson, you're going to come out of that show absolutely learning so much about some people that you probably don't know much about.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Rob Viper show, we haven't had him on in a few years for the Hall of Fame. So he got to talk about a bunch of new people, including people that he suggested for the ballot. So there's some candidates there, Volador Jr. being one of them, that he just schooled us inside and out on the career. You think you know about Volador Jr. You don't until you listen to that audio. So these audios are truly sitting under a learning, forget Jericho, sitting under the learning tree and just listen to these guys passionately discuss these candidates. It's impossible for you not to learn something if you're into history. They're truly great shows. There are very few people who know more about modern lucha than Rob Viper, and there are very few people who know more about wrestling history than Ethan Tyler.
Yeah, it's both. You're going to learn a lot from both shows, and that's really what we aim to do on the Observer Hall of Fame audios. You're going to learn a lot about some all-time greats in the world of wrestling, so definitely check those ones out. Plus the written article that I mentioned about Hiroshi Tanahashi, Flagship Pluses from this week. I think you did 2 of them this week. You did the Thursday Dynamite review as per usual. All of our retro content, everything we do is available in bonus audio form and bonus written form at flagshippatreon.com. All right, that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Flagship. Oh, I should mention Mike and JD's show right now. I believe I think the backup Hangman's filling in tonight for JD. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's confirmed or
he's in our fucking chat,
he's
so he's not working maybe if he's doing it, he's not working very hard.
Is he in the chat too? I swore they said he was doing that. Let me double check if he's live right now. Well, anyway, you go live right now to the Voice of Wrestling YouTube page. You'll get the Mike and JD show. Okay, maybe he's jumping in later. I don't know what's going on with it says
I don't know, man.
It says he's here. It says Ibu of Wrestling Furious. So
Uncle Ibrahima is in the chat. He's not over there.
Oh, get over there. Do some fucking work, man. Is he waiting for us? He says I'll be. He says yes, I'll be there. Well, get there. What are you doing? What are you listening to our show
Show's
for?
on the air, pal. Show's on the
Get
air.
out of here.
I don't know. I'll be there.
I'll be there. Be
Show's
there
already
now.
on.
Be there right now.
Yeah.
Mike and JD show, Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel. Get on there. They're live right now, and I guess waiting for us to finish so their guests can come onto the show. God.
Oh, wait. We just realized it's our fault. We just
No, I don't think it's our fault. No, I don't think it's our. No, he has no obligation to listen to us right now.
It's true.
Oh, he's waiting to come home.
True.
Okay, he's busy. Okay, all right. Well, you know what? Do whatever you got to do and get on there. Mike and JD show right now on the Voice of Wrestling YouTube channel, live right now. So when you're done with this show, just pop on over there, listen to them. They'll have some great discussions about all the world of wrestling as well. But that is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, the Bad, and the Hungy every week on the Voices of Wrestling Network.